and welcome to Nice and Blunt. I'm Adam Riancha. Today's Monday, June 8th, 7:30 p.m., and we have a very special guest. Welcome back to the channel, Chris, the Candyman, the FFB Garage. How we doing, bro?
Brother, I'm feeling good, better than ever. It's hot best ball summer. We're here, and we're drafting teams on June 8th. Like, what's more fun than that? We're getting more information every day, and a couple things you and I talked about last time we were live together have come to fruition because AJ Brown is a Patriot, and it's making waves. It's probably the biggest fantasy relevant news we've had in like the last couple weeks.
The ripple effects are pretty strong. I'm a little surprised that Dallas Goedert never got the bump. Seems like the Stowers selection still keeping him down, but the people are in on Devontae. Lemon's still lingering around, even though Lemon's starting to fall. It's kind of funny, but yeah, that AJ Brown price rapidly rising. Like I said, got to get him in the third back in the day because that price just doesn't exist anymore. But it's a pleasure to have you. If anyone's watching hasn't checked out his channel yet, we got the link down below in the description. He's cracked 1K subs, so that badge of honor is now that window is passed. You no longer know exactly which subscriber you are, but he's on to 2K now. Head over there. The link is in the description, and we're gonna draft some best ball teams tonight. Let's check in with the chat real quick. We got Scott in the house. Looking forward to this podcast as well, Scott. Happy to have you. Good evening. And then Pepper Tony, I sent on a slight whirlwind. Sorry, bro. We were chatting. We were having a good time talking some tangents before we popped in, and I unfortunately your plans had to wait. But thank you, Pepper Tony, for joining us. We got Danimal in the house. Let's go. And then your soothing sound. Good evening. About to take a blinker. Love a late night draft. Chill, bro. Sweet. And then what's up, Albie? Good luck. Hop in 1-4 bet. Sweet. And then Keith the Big Shooter. What up, man? How we doing? Good to see you. Nice to have you. So we're going to be drafting a Pitbull, but first we want to talk about the guest's topic of interest. And I asked Chris, there's one player after the 7th round you want on the thumbnail that we can talk a little in depth on. Who would it be? And he offered Zachariah Branch of the Atlanta Falcons. So we'll go a little in depth on Zachariah Branch, and then Chris will give us his win-loss pick predictions for the Falcon season this year. So let's get it going, man. What would you like to start off with regarding Zachariah Branch?
I think he's pretty exciting. I mean, he went to the Falcons in round 3, pick 79 overall. He's still going very late in best ball drafts, and I think he can be used pretty immediately in the slot and on like manufactured touches. In college, he was heavily used underneath. He is kind of I would say, low average depth of target kind of player. But he's playing a lot out of the slot and getting a lot of his receptions via screen. So kind of those manufactured touches. He's super fast, like a 4.35 40. He's strong after the catch, and I think he can force missed tackles. I'm pretty sure he led all SEC receivers in receptions last year. And so I think he's kind of like an immediate impact player for the Falcons. If you think of the Falcons, you immediately go to, I mean, probably obviously they have a new coach, Kevin Stefanski. Their offensive engine is Bijan Robinson. Who's their quarterback? We don't quite know. We think it's Tua. Could Penix start some games coming off of his injury? But we know London and Kyle Pitts are also pretty involved for earning targets. After that, it's really open. And I think Zachariah Branch is a guy that can produce some like useful weeks for fantasy. So for best ball, I've been targeting him a good amount. It's pretty fun. He could end up being the wide receiver 2 in terms of target earning by the end of the season. And the only knock on him is really that he's kind of undersized and a slot player. But one of the things I like to bring up is that I think he benched 225 24 times. And for perspective, Christian McCaffrey was benching 225, I think 10 times. So he's completely jacked. Like he's this super strong, kind of you could argue undersized wide receiver, but another like anecdote, his dad was a former Mr. Olympia, which reminds me of like Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, so
Exactly.
it's a lot of fun, I think, opportunity for him to earn targets, and I think he is a pretty strong player to go where he did in the actual real NFL draft. So just a guy, another team where there's a lot of things changing, and I think he could be a pretty interesting late round flyer with a lot of speed. So I like Zachariah Branch. I've been drafting him somewhat aggressively. I'm like 20%. If you round up, I'm like 20% exposure right now through my drafts, and he's like one of my top 5 most drafted wide receivers.
He's extremely affordable. So in terms of a player to like target, he's absolutely one that you can easily acquire. And the argument I think is really like as long as you're right on him being that number 2, that is absolutely a role that has a lot of upside. Last year we were drafting Darnell Mooney like around pick 100. I think after some of his injury concern, he fell to like pick maybe 115 or so. But like that's the role he should be stepping into. And that's definitely a lot of opportunity, no doubt about it. So I don't really fear his competition. Jahan Dotson has never made things happen. I was a believer, his rookie season, hopeful about Jahan Dotson in the draft capital, but never seemed to materialize. And then we got Olamide Zaccheaus, who like every, once in a blue moon, he'll have a deep touchdown and like factor in to just like on a given week, he finished like top 25 or something, but he's never a player with consistent value. And so definitely beatable competition. And then when you factor in the Falcons offense in like the ADP, their 4th option off the board is Brian Robinson, the backup running back, going like pick 160, 170 practically. Like there's not much competition at all. And the Kevin Stefanski offense usually manufactures some touches that are valuable all around. So I do think he's a very compelling argument to be making. When I look at his game log, this is his stats out of Georgia last year. He transferred to USC, but
Right.
did declare for the NFL as a junior. I always like to see that. There's some really high spike weeks, like 95 yards and a touchdown, 69 and a touchdown. Another game down here with 9 for 57, so can be a bit of a possession guy. 8 for 71, then 10 for 112, and then 8 for 68, another touchdown down the stretch. 3 straight games with a touchdown to close it out at Georgia Tech versus Alabama and versus Ole Miss. He has that ability. 81 for 811. I don't know for sure if that led the conference, but I'm willing to take your word for it. I also love his
in receptions. I think 81 was the most in the conference. I think
81
sure.
is quite a lot. 81 is definitely fucking high. So that sounds like it checks out. The return yards though, 205 kick return yards, and then 180 in the punt return game. Like that's my only concern, where like maybe that's something they drafted him to be a specialty player for. But it obviously points to his just like dynamism and just like athletic ability. You're not gonna put up almost 400 yards on special teams if you can't get the ball moving. So I like the take. I've been drafting quite a bit of him. My question for you is, if let's say the rest of the market views him the way you do, how high do you think he should be going?
Not too much higher. It's a late rookie flyer. He's a 3rd round pick. I think I mean at most I could see him getting into like the 140s, but from a draft capital perspective, that doesn't really move the needle. It's still like a $1-2 auction bid. So it's really just I think consistently we'll see him going as like a late round pick. I would be super surprised if there was enough good news to propel him higher than that. So that's kind of another reason I like him though, is because he's just cheap enough to throw into, every couple teams that I draft where I want some rookie upside, or I have a bring back for a New Orleans play, or maybe I want to do a late stack with like Tua or something. And so it's very affordable.
A-Rod's asking, do we get return yards in best ball? We get the touchdown. We do not get the yards. If he hits the end zone, we get the 6 points.
I think the return aspect speaks to his dynamism and his ability to like earn touches throughout an NFL game, which we've seen. And this is an extreme example, but like Antonio Brown was a punt returner before he was
Right.
a Pro Bowl, like Hall of Fame level wide receiver. So it just speaks to guys who can, the coaching staff will trust with the ball in their hands. It's a good signal for me.
Yeah, I like it long term for sure. Sometimes the year one breakout can be a little slow, but that's the I've always had the mentality like in pre-draft, like location matters a little bit more than talent sometimes. Like the opportunity
Yeah.
that you get is so critical to actually delivering quickly. And the Falcons were one of the teams I circled on. Like if they draft a receiver, whether I like the prospect or not, this guy just automatically moves up my board. So I like the call. I definitely draft him quite a bit myself. And I hope he can make some noise, man. Like your soothing sound is asking, is Branch the hidden treasure we need? He's definitely a compelling bet for sure. Um, I also kind of wanted to bring up like the Falcons stats. Like there were some weeks when they tried to make Darnell Mooney a thing. Sorry for
I
the
know.
viewers, we don't have dark mode, so we're kind of going blind. I'm blinding everyone briefly. But like this is the game log for Mooney, keeping in mind he was like very injured last year, but
I know. It was
they
tough.
tried to like week 3 they tried to make it happen, 11 targets, and the man just could not deliver. And then even down the stretch, like still an 8 target 1 reception game. Like Mooney
Terrible.
fucking sucked, bro. Like this week 12 is the only good, and it's not even that compelling. Like 3 for 74 and
Yeah.
1. Like he just got lucky
It's
on a
good
house call.
enough, but it's just a touchdown. I'll let you on a secret. I'm not drafting Mooney in 2026. I had about 20% Mooney last year. It didn't. I was not rewarded for that.
No, as someone who is also very invested in Mooney, I was watching closely, and my take this year is he's unless he somehow recovers in some insane way, just because like he had to get a new contract. But I don't see it. I think he's probably washed more likely than not, and I think I'd
Yeah.
rather have a little bit more Malachi Fields than Mooney. I've even taken Calvin Austin once or twice, not like at a high rate. It's just I don't believe in Mooney, and they brought in OBJ. Maybe they don't believe in him either. But what is notable though, when you look at the Falcons, stats, it's a different situation. It's also not the same coaching staff. So I also wanted to pull up the Browns, and there were instances where, like, similarly, they're trying to get a number 2 receiver going, but it doesn't quite happen. Like Tillman offered a little bit of upside with 2 touchdowns first 2 weeks, but then completely fell off. Never had a game
Yeah.
over 7
Strange.
points, and I think the injury definitely played a factor. But like if you go
Sure.
back 2 years, Tillman had a little breakout briefly before his concussion problems. Tillman as the number 2 was getting it going, but he's a bit more of like an X receiver. I'm not sure if he has like the same role as like a Branch, but
Right.
definitely those targets are going to go somewhere. And if you're telling me we get like even just 6 weeks with like 7.5, 8 targets, I do think Branch can absolutely pop based on ADP.
It's a late season play. It's a guy you want to see earn targets and touches late in the season. It's cheap. It's fun. It's reminiscent to me of maybe making a bet on like Torrey Horton or Isaac Tesla last
Mm.
season. Just a guy who didn't go super early in the NFL draft, doesn't have a ton of draft capital, but is on a team with an intriguing kind of opportunity to be useful on that offense. And maybe we just see Zachariah Branch hit a touchdown in a week that matters for you on your team. And it's kind of all you're asking for, drafting him in the latest rounds that he goes these best ball drafts. So it's fun, and I think he's a talented player. I like the story on him, and he's a safe bet. And the Falcons, there's a lot of things changing there, so there's some opportunity to take over the touches. You talked about Cedric Tillman. He's a player I really liked based on his size and speed when he was coming into the league out of Tennessee. It's been tough for me to kind of see how that's played out. I mean, I know when he's been healthy, it's not been too bad, but being on the Browns doesn't really do anyone huge favors for fantasy. So I'll just kind of leave it at that.
Well, Tyler, this will be our last point on it. Do you actually trust Tua? And if not, does Penix inspire you? What's your take on the quarterback situation?
So I've been a fan of Michael Penix. I think that he has some talent. I've seen him throw deep balls in person, like live. I know he's a good quarterback, at least at the collegiate level. To the NFL, how that translates, it's more of a question on health for him. But I think at least between Penix and Tua, you have a pretty safe floor for passing. Go back a couple years, maybe 2023, 2024. Tua was supporting Waddle and Tyreek Hill at like the highest levels.
Right.
So I think that actually Tua being there really raises the floor on the outcomes. And maybe Penix can still earn that job. But the worst case scenario is Tua, then like we're in a good shape.
Speaking of Tua, though, if he like remains the starter, I feel like his lack of like downfield passing ability does kind of play into the strength of Zachariah Branch a little bit. I feel like him
Yep.
on a short depth of target, maybe even behind the line of scrimmage half the
Yep.
time. I feel like he does fit a Tua passing game quite well. And Penix maybe is much better down the field, so perhaps, if anything, I might prefer a Tua Branch stack if you're actually looking to
That's
believe
how
in
I've
the.
been playing it. I think every offensive skill position player would probably benefit from Tua. And so like when I'm doing my London or Bijan drafts, or even just I need a QB3 late and I can grab Branch and then Tua. That's something that I've been doing. Even I think honestly, even Kyle Pitts. Like I don't know if there's a with Penix, I've gone back and forth. I think I'm leaning on the camp. I'm on the side of the fence. I'm on the side of the fence that thinks that Tua plays more games and is probably better for like those fantasy assets.
I if I'm only picking one Falcon quarterback, I'm with you there. I think it's Tua, and as long as he doesn't get a concussion, I think he'll
Yeah,
keep them like viable enough where you know they're gonna try it with Tua. I think first, and maybe they just don't stay competitive enough. But I think he's the more valuable of the two. There's a chance though that they just say fuck it, we're gonna put in Penix down the stretch because we got to see what we have before we pivot to another option. But um, that is going to depend on how many wins they get. So speaking of that, would like to pivot to our win-loss pick game. I introduced this with Meg, and it hit me. I should have been doing this for a while with guests, but I gave you a team to pick. We're going to go through their schedule this season. You're going to make some win-loss picks. I'm going to mark them down. Let me get the pen.
let's do this. I'm ready. I'm excited. It's an interesting schedule, honestly, very interesting.
I found it. I'm ready to go. I will keep track for you. We're going to start. I'm going to lob it to you. Week 1 at Pittsburgh.
Week 1 at Pittsburgh. Um, you know, Pittsburgh defense. Let me think about that for just like a half second. This actually makes a big difference because I think there is a lot of things about like hot starts and momentum. If I'm looking at the Pittsburgh defense and how they're projected for 2026, they're really good. I'm gonna give that an L. L for the Falcons.
All right. So Stefanski cannot avenge his former uh, rivalry team. Then week 2 versus Carolina. If I'm not mistaken, they kind of crumble against the Falcons. At least they have recently.
I would pretty handily think the Falcons could be a favorite in this game. So I'm gonna hand that one to the Falcons here, straight up,
All right. So one on
especially
one
at home.
start at Green Bay week 3 on Thursday night.
Yeah, a short week Thursday. I don't think Green Bay's defense is all it's cracked up to be in past years. I think they can be exploited, and I know it's an away game. It's hard to win in Lambeau on a Thursday night short week. I don't think you need much to win this game. This could easily be a game that Bijan carries them early in the season. So I'm going to give this one to the Falcons, I think.
Bijan in prime time is insane. Josh Jacobs questionable right now. Maybe even Micah Parsons as well. I would agree. I think they can win at Green Bay. Then we got week 4 at New Orleans.
So it's a divisional matchup. It's
Monday
also the
night.
week 7. It's the weeks. Sorry, Monday night. Yeah, it's also the week 17 matchup between these teams. The next time they see each other, it's going to be in Atlanta. week 17. Uh, it's going to be close. I think this is a fun matchup, but New Orleans defense is pretty lacking. Not that Atlanta's defense is much better. So it really comes down to, I honestly think Tua is the starter at this point. I think he just has more of like a veteran presence and experience. I think he might have a slight upper hand on going up against a second year quarterback like Shuck. And so if we do see the Saints coming out really hot, then this might be it's pretty close. I'm gonna give it to the Falcons, but I also understand like the Saints could just come out the starting line like very hot, and things could change pretty quickly, because I think the Saints could be a team that you might think could go like what would that be, 4-0 to start the season and be very impressive, and everyone's like, wow, look at this offense with second year quarterback Tyler Shuck. But if they're still if their defense is letting them down, I think the Falcons are a very competitive team in this matchup.
So win week 4, and then their
Right.
third straight primetime game. This is Sunday night versus the Ravens.
That's tough. That's a really tough one. I give them an L there. I don't think they can beat the Ravens. They're not the same caliber of team. I think the Ravens bounce back pretty strong, and with the new coaching staff for the Ravens too, there are some things that are unknowns, but I have a lot of faith in Lamar Jackson, and especially in prime time. And I think their defense is super solid too. So I think the Ravens are just like going to be a heavy favorite in that game, regardless of what they're at to that point in the season, like win-loss record for both teams.
Just looking at Tua versus Lamar, I think I got to give Lamar the edge. But
Easy.
Then we go week 6. We got versus Chicago at home.
Because it's a home game, it's on a Sunday early slate. It's kind of a coin flip. Let me see. I'm trying to figure out how many wins I've allocated. So this is through 6 weeks, and I think I've said they've beat 1, 2, 3 teams.
Yeah,
so
3-2 right now.
3-2
versus the Bears.
Yeah, I would say Bears are pretty tough. Probably poised to be a playoff team. I like Ben Johnson. I would contend to say this one could also be an L. 2 losses in a row.
I agree. Then we got week 7 versus the Niners. Also, what's up, Emo? How we doing, DJ Quill? What's your call, Candyman?
That's not a good matchup. That's a 3 straight losses.
I was like, you're pretty high on him early. Let's see where this goes. Okay, so week 8 at Tampa Bay, division game on the road.
Let me see. No, that's going to be close. I think it's close enough to give them a win there. They bounce back from the losses. If they do go like 4 straight losses here, if they hypothetically would, then the question comes into, do they bench Tua? But I think they're going to ride it out. I think we're still skeptical on the Penix return window from injury. And I think Stefanski is also going to have some faith in his starters. So I think Tua is still starting here, and I think they beat Tampa Bay.
I have noticed over the years, the Falcons offense plays lit against the Bucs, especially in Florida. That was when Kyle Pitts had that 40-point game last year. I wouldn't be completely shocked if Tua goes back into Florida and wins this one. So I am willing to agree with you on that one. What about the next week, week 9? Looks like a London game, if I had to guess. Maybe it
is.
Yeah,
I think
so. London versus the Bengals. At least it's Europe, somewhere in Europe.
This is tough because I don't exactly have a good reference point on where the Bengals might be at this point in the season. I have a lot of faith in the Bengals offense. Their defense, I'm pretty skeptical of, but I'm also pretty skeptical of the Falcons defense as it is.
Give me your gut call, Chris.
My gut call would be to go with the better quarterback, and that's going to be Joe Burrow.
It's an L.
Yep.
And then right before the bye, interesting, they didn't opt for the bye off the road trip, but versus the Chiefs at home, week 10.
God, this is tough. I think the Chiefs defense is still pretty strong. Here's the thing though. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give the Falcons a W here because everyone's going to expect the Chiefs to win this game just objectively from this point in the season. But football is a game of small sample sizes. I'm going to give the Falcons a win here going into the bye.
All right, so off the Europe game, a win over Mahomes. As a Chargers fan, I'm happy to see them lose. We got off the bye. Bijan lit them up last year at Minnesota. This game like wasn't even close.
Yeah, and part of why I'm so confident in the Falcons, I mean, they did win 8 games last year. They weren't like the
Right.
worst team. They were kind of middle of the pack. I think they get a coaching upgrade, and I'm still expecting Bijan to be the guy that we know he is. So I think they lean on Bijan. I think this is another victory for the Falcons and a big game for Bijan here, like you said.
All right, so we are currently 6-5 going into a Week 13 matchup versus Detroit.
And it's interesting. These are two teams that can kind of shoot out, I think, well in certain circumstances. But my gut feeling on going up against Detroit is not. It's not going to be good for the Falcons. I think that is a win for Detroit.
All right, so we are 6-6, and then Week 14 at Cleveland, Stefanski revenge game.
It is the revenge game. The Cleveland defense, I still think can be a really strong run stop defense, but this is where the Falcons can open up their passing game. Maybe we see Zachariah Branch, have a nice game. I think London and Pitts, they've got some options there. So for me in this one, I know the Cleveland defense is pretty good. The revenge game narrative is fun for Stefanski. I think we see the Falcons do something reminiscent of what they did last season, where they go on a late season kind of push, and I think they win this game.
Feels like a W to me as well. Bijan should crush. And then Week 15 at the Commanders. Surprisingly, it was pretty competitive last year.
I think surprisingly, this is going to be an easy game for Atlanta. One of the easier games they have of the whole season. I still like Jaden Daniels. I think the Commanders, though, are a pretty suspect team. So I would give this one to Atlanta.
I'm personally very worried about the Commanders win total this year. So I don't hate it. And then we got 3 games left. The rematch versus the Buccaneers.
So I said they'd win the first one.
You did.
I think the second one, it is hard to win. It's hard to sweep your division. I don't think I've given them an L in their division yet. Yeah, I think in this one, because it's versus Tampa Bay, but it's late in the season.
I'm gonna put you on the clock. 10 seconds. Gut call, bro.
I think this is a loss for them. Gut call.
I think that's a fair. To split with Tampa, probably a little bit fair of a prediction.
Because I see Tampa as being their bigger hurdle to winning the division, but I think the Saints aren't far behind.
That division's always close, and last year someone won it with 8 wins. Who knows if that happens again? Or we get 2 more division games. They're closing it out Week 17 versus New Orleans. That best ball money week. Who you got?
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a fun week, a good shootout game to go for. Give me Atlanta.
All right, so 1 more win, and then lastly at Carolina, the team that was the bane of their existence last season.
I'm gonna roll with Atlanta. I think they might need this win. I think they could still be competing, and I think that we could see Carolina kind of maybe finishing last in this division is the easy way to project them. So I'm gonna roll with that.
All right, that means you have a 10-7 prediction here for the Atlanta Falcons. It'd be their best season in a while.
Yeah.
I've fallen for this before.
I know.
I've believed in Atlanta many times that we're like they should be a 10-win team. They got the offensive weapons, and for whatever fucking reason, I don't know if it's the owner that just like kneecaps them, but they always let you down for whatever reason. So I'll be completely honest. In my personal predictions, I actually have them as an 8-win team once again.
Yeah.
I think the spot where I disagree with you is I think they're going to split with the Panthers because the Panthers really had their number this last year. And then off the London game, I'm a little worried about the Chiefs matchup. But for the most part, there wasn't really anything that I thought was off base or anything. I think the Chiefs game will be weird with a lack of rest, and then just Mahomes making some magic happen. But I don't think 10 wins is impossible. I think they're going to be hovering around 9, and that division's completely up for grabs. If Stefanski can get his shit together, Can definitely happen. So a 10-7
it
prediction.
it'd be like, I think most predictions have them around like 7.5, 8 wins, 9 wins would be pretty optimistic. This would be a very optimistic outlook. Like you said, beating the Chiefs would be a big surprise and something they'd have to do, and then dominating their division. The last time they won double digit games was back when they made it to the Super Bowl and they went 11-5. So I I don't know if we see Falcons going on a Super Bowl run in their first year with Kevin Stefanski, but maybe they become dangerous again with like a 2-time NFL Coach of the Year caliber guy, on their sideline.
I think they're looking up. I think moving on from their coach last year, whose name is already evading me.
Raheem Morris.
Yeah, Raheem, so forgettable. He seemed to rally them late, but only once they were eliminated. Like it was like, now that there's literally nothing to play for, we're gonna go on a big win streak when it means nothing. So I'm hopeful for Stefanski. I think getting out of Cleveland, kind of like anyone who leaves the Jets, gets better in their new spot. I think similar to that, leaving Cleveland should help Stefanski. That division's just so odd sometimes, but if you told me they go 8-9 and still win it, also wouldn't be shocked. So let's hope for the best. I am currently hopping into a Pitbull. I was hopeful that maybe I could get a pod that was close to filling. We got 10 spots left, so come on down. We are in the Pitbull, everyone. I did not give y'all a countdown, but we're drafting for 100K and the advance rate. If we can make it out of the pod, top 2 teams make it, then it's really nice. 1 out of 6, 1 out of 5, and then I love this 156 seat final. It's tough to get a small final these days. What's your take on the final sizes that Underdog's been offering up to us lately?
I'm not impressed. I like the small final size. You get rewarded for making the final, and you want to be able to sweat out a small final size. Every finals that I've ever made where it was let's just say less than 300 teams or about 300 or less teams, I feel really confident. I feel good. There's a chance to win this. There's a chance to have fun. If you have more than one team in a final, my benchmark is for every 99 teams you're competing with, you want to have one team. So if you tell me the final size is 900 teams, get out of here. Like this is a lottery. This is not a good chance to win this tournament. This is going to be bad. 9 times out of 10, terrible outcome. Even just making the final is not worth it. If you give me a final that's 156, I'm excited.
Yeah, the Pitbull seems like one of the most compelling tournaments to enter right now, as long as you don't mind the $20 buy-in. But I'm starting to think that maybe, like, obviously people want to make a final. So there's like kind of just like an extra, accomplishment of saying that you made the final. But it just doesn't mean as much when it's 3 times as big as it really should be. So that's annoying. I also don't like to know that it's so difficult to still make the final. Like even a 900 person final is still tough to make in a contest this big. And then you still barely only get like $30 sometimes. It's like, the fuck is the point? It makes BBM look way more compelling, because if you do make week 17, you get almost $4,000 immediate, to finish last. I think maybe that's part of their logic on like, well, if we can make people think this through, maybe even getting last place in BBM is much more compelling than getting, 200th place in the puppy or whatever, or the dachshund or the hound dog, for instance.
Sure. I mean, to quote the great Ricky Bobby, if you're not first, you're last. In these best ball tournaments, like, you want to be first. If you're top 10, you'll be happy. If you're not making top 10 in a lot of these tournaments, it's not really worth it. I've had some finishes outside of maybe finishing like 33rd in a large field tournament. Nothing to brag about. Who cares you made the final? Who cares you got top 40 or 50? Doesn't make a difference. The next year you're still coming back, and you're probably based on your high volume entries, like in that situation, you're probably not actually even breaking even. So you really need a 0.1% outcome. And so to me, there's some balancing act. I still want to be doing some BBMs. I still want to be doing some of these super large field tournaments, but give me a $20 entry with a 156 size final. And if I'm not mistaken, it's still $100,000 up top, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, it's still pretty
Yeah,
nice.
I'm in. I'm in on that. $20 to get to 100,000. Count me in.
The Pitbull's pretty nice. We got Who Hames in here. If anyone hasn't checked him out yet, subscribe to Who Hames on his channel. Really dope friend of the channel. Awesome streamer over there. We got Nice and Sneaky. Yeah, tried to be, but wasn't rewarded, unfortunately. We got a lot of friends and family. Speaking of Keith, he just took Gibbs at the 101. He don't care about ADP. He's not impressed with Bijan. We got Sanka, who just took JSN. I think Wabi is also in here.
Nice.
Yes, Seth Wabi at the 102 did take Bijan. Game Tight's on the clock. I think RB1 might be watching as well. And then shout out John Tara as well as King Calorie at pick 12. We pulled the 111.
Hell yeah. I love the 111. It's a good spot to be in. I don't really mind particularly like any spot on the board, but I feel like the 111 has been a spot that I've been very comfortable in drafting. Earlier today, I drafted a team out of the 11th spot. It was a Frenchie 5, but I was kind of just getting through my max on those and just kind of firing those off.
Nice. The Frenchie's not too bad for $2 a piece. It was worth it. What would you like here?
Probably Jefferson. This is more of a flat tier at RB that we can, we'll get lucky. Whatever falls to us. If it's Cook, if it's Barkley, if it's Achan, all good picks. I can argue for all of those three guys. I expect Cook to go. I think people are most reluctant to take Achan. I'm not. I'm pretty in on him. I've changed my tune the last 2 weeks, and I'm cool with either Barkley or Achan didn't go. So we get Barkley. I'm fine with Barkley here. Hey, maybe we get Barkley from 2 years ago. Who knows? New coaching staff, new offensive coordinator. They get rid of AJ Brown. They might need to rely on him more. I'm not afraid to click Saquon Barkley and Justin Jefferson just because they had relative down years last season. It was Justin Jefferson's worst season of his career. We think Kyler Murray's good, and I think the Eagles are still good enough. I think Saquon. I was a little bit disappointed with his performance last year. I will say that, but I think year to year he can still be okay because the redeeming quality of Saquon is just the sheer amount of volume and touches he gets, and he's a workhorse back. So if we can, the second half of last year, from weeks 9 to 17, Saquon scored 3 total touchdowns. I don't think that repeats. He had, let me pull up the number. He had 166 touches and only 3 touchdowns. For instance, Chase Brown had 162 touches with 7 touchdowns. Etienne Jr. had 170 touches with 10 touchdowns. Gibbs had 168 touches with 10 touchdowns. I think Saquon, it was just a bad run out. I think the touchdown luck could swing back in his favor. Getting Saquon in the second round before he really falls off the cliff, and I don't think we're there yet, I think is a good pick.
Well, you know me. I went on my Tank Bigsby monologue a while ago. I have been fading Saquon a little bit, but I think the argument that I always kind of come back to is the reason I like Tank Bigsby is because I like the Eagles offense. I want the Eagles run game. I know that's going to be a very productive team. And despite the tush push stealing some touchdowns, it's still, there's so much opportunity. It's not a team you want to fade. So as long as Saquon stays healthy, he is obviously the guy. And like, that's the thing about Tank. Like until Saquon gets hurt, Tank is pretty worthless. So to bet completely against Saquon and always fade him, I think is unwise. I'm not overweight on Saquon, of course, but obviously he's still a fine click. It was hard for me to pass on Hampton, though. You're the guest.
I know.
I'm going to do what you want. But there's part of me that was like, I really wish he said Hampton. I got enough of Hampton, though. I can use a little more Saquon, in all honesty.
I think I was kind of surprised of the run out that Saquon had last season. It's really hard for a player that we know is as talented as he is to get that many opportunities per game and not produce fantasy points. So I'm starting to think that last year was more of an anomaly and maybe bad play calling than the fact that Saquon is like dust now. So I want to go one more year investing in high draft capital Saquon before I'm ready to like throw in the towel. One thing I'll throw out here. So among all running backs, what percentile of their fantasy points come from touchdowns? Saquon, for the second half of last season, I'm really focused in on weeks 9 through 17. He was 29th percentile. That's one of like the lowest of any running back you can think of in terms of their fantasy points that came from their touchdowns. And if we go to guys like, I mean, any other running back is going to be 50 percentile, plus getting a ton of fantasy points from their touchdowns. This is an interesting spot.
Real quick, though. Yeah, we're on the clock. What would you like?
It's just tough. This is not my favorite spot to be in. I'm
gonna queue up
either
Lad.
T-Mac or Lad.
I'm Lad over T-Mac for sure.
Yeah, I'm okay with Lad then. I am. I don't love that pinch on wide receiver there. And I think the running backs we can push to the 4th round.
It is tough. I respect the pass on Josh Allen. Sometimes it's compelling when he falls this late, but still, anytime I do it, I still kind of regret it these days.
I always regret it. I never like how my teams look when I take the most expensive quarterback. It's a pretty thin bet to make.
We are back on the clock, and Scattaboo goes. So you were Tet over Neighbors, but what would you like?
I'm confused on Neighbors. We can dip into Neighbors if you want. Otherwise, I'd probably go T-Mac or Garrett Wilson.
I don't have much T-Mac, so I'm happy to get him as the wide receiver 3. He feels like he
earns targets. I think he's good. I think he'll be good. I don't think we see him drop off too much. So I liked him as a prospect coming in. I'm gonna pull up some data right now on T-Mac. He was very good from a fantasy points per touch perspective. We needed to see him earn more targets and receptions consistently. And I think that could be something that's like more of a year 2 leap. It's very feasible. If we see T-Mac go from where last season he was, only averaging like 4 receptions per game. That's not that great, but he was getting about 2.5 fantasy points per reception. So if he can just elevate that from about 4 receptions a game to 5 receptions a game, he's going to be going from about 10, 11 fantasy points a game to more in that 13, 14 territory, which feels very comfortable and still with his spike weeks. So he gets more into that kind of what you would expect from maybe Chris Olave or borderline like Drake London kind of output if he can just get one more catch per game. And I think it's very feasible, but like we're still asking for him to, one more catch. That's like a 20% more receptions. It's asking for a lot consistently, but I don't think it's like an unreasonable ceiling to get to going from 4 to 5 receptions.
If he does have a year 2 breakout, it's definitely a pretty obvious expectation of like, yeah, you can probably average more than what you said, like 4.5 receptions per game. That's pretty,
like 4.
That's pretty low for someone that was the 8th overall pick. I was a little sour on him because I drafted him a lot around this price last year, and then he was so inconsistent. He was giving like if you were in a full PPR league, he wasn't bad. He was a good floor play consistently every week, but he was never really finding the end zone. And then the one game where he like really blew up for touchdowns was against Dallas. It was like his best matchup, and then he only had like 30 yards in the game. It was like kind of shocking, but he did end up the season kind of with some consistent red zone action. I think he had 7 total on the year, despite like in week 11, it felt like he never found the end zone at all. So he did kind of close strong enough to have some exciting, breakout potential. I do worry a little bit about the Chris Brazzell signing and just the lack of development out of Bryce Young, but it's no doubt he is poised to lead the team in targets by a pretty wide margin, and he should pay off given his talent. So I don't mind it.
He's our wide receiver 3 is exciting spot to be in because there's a definite cap to his ceiling. But as a wide receiver 3, I think it's totally fine. This is kind of the opportunity cost of, hey, do you take your running back 2 there instead? But I'm confident. I'm starting to see some running backs go off the board that I like, but maybe we can still get a running back or two with these next couple picks that we feel really good about.
Well, I do want to let you know the team behind us at 12 does not have a receiver yet. So it's
Right.
possible they ignore that position, or we maybe give them someone they can't pass on and they go hyper fragile. So just keep that in mind on how you want to play it. But this is your call on this team. I'm giving you the reins on the
So
decision.
Tootin going there is kind of a bummer. I do like to grab Tootin in this kind of spot on this end of the board.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, if I can get Tootin in the 6, I'm pretty ecstatic. As like a running back 3, feels really nice. I've been building a lot of balance builds. See, Bucky going there is a huge bummer. I think Bucky would have been a nice value here. I I am pretty interested to go Jadarian Price. I'm not really afraid of the lack of pass catching upside. I think he can still get there from his rushing ability alone on the Seahawks. But the real question is like, what is his touch ceiling?
Mm-hmm.
Is it 14 a game? Is it 20 a game? If it's 20 a game, he's going to be a smash. Like regardless, it's going to be a great pick. If it's 14 a game, then he's more of a flex play. Because the running backs dried up, I would have liked to maybe get another running back here. I'm 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 thinking we could just take Tyson or Brian Thomas. I like them both.
Definitely, these are the two I want. I am
I
BTJ
kind of
over
prefer
Thomas.
Brian Thomas, honestly.
I'm happy with that. Definitely. Uh,
The
I'm
year
willing.
3 breakout narrative, the better offense in general. We've
Yeah.
already seen it from him. The best case scenario for Jordan Tyson, who's already dealing with like some hamstring stuff. I think it's still the best Jordan Tyson season we could get. It'd be really hard for him to pay off a 6-round pick. You'd be expecting like a Brian Thomas Jr. style rookie season. Oh, but why not just draft Brian Thomas Jr.?
Right. It is in a way less crowded in New Orleans, but yeah, the proof of concept is absolutely there with BTJ. You just have to assume that he will bounce back and be closer to year 1 as opposed to year 2. But there's so many different factors with BTJ last year: an injury, also a tragedy in his personal life right before the season.
Right.
I do think his mentality, I think, is in the right spot. I think he is motivated to get back in action. And I do think the Jags know their odds of winning a Super Bowl are much higher with BTJ at full strength, really incorporated into their offense. I'm sure Liam Cohen wants to get that going with T-Law. So I believe in it. I trust BTJ's talent. He's too good of an athlete to bet against. So if it goes poorly, then something else really went wrong. I don't think it'll happen 2 years in a row.
Have you been making any strong stands on the Jaguars offense, like one way or the other?
Well, I don't know if you've heard this. I got a bet with Jiri football
I
going at
haven't
the moment.
heard.
Okay, we've had this for a couple months now, maybe not 2 months, but first time we streamed together, we set this up. He's a Parker Washington stan, and as much as I have come around to believe in Parker Washington, we have a straight up bet. As long as BTJ stays on the Jags, both have to play a minimum 10 games. Whoever scores the most points will win the bet. And I am on the BTJ side. He's on the Parker Washington side. The loser will have to pay for a bigger board that's $100 team next season.
Wow, that's fun. Yeah. I would go team BTJ. I also I'm not out on Parker Washington. I'm not even out on Jacoby Myers. I think um there's different pluses and minuses to all three of them in terms of best ball and what you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
I think this ceiling is probably highest for Brian Thomas Jr. And so if I'm trying to win a large field tournament, like give me the guy with the highest ceiling. And if he can just earn more of those targets, it'll come together. I think Jacoby Myers is like also undervalued, but just because he's more of like the safe floor option and the volume kind of dependent option, but I like that offense. So I'm pretty much just investing in that offense. I never like to leave a fantasy draft without a Jaguar, which is different years. We have like different teams where you kind of want to anchor to like, oh, I'd love to have a skill position player from a certain team on like most of my drafts. For me, that's kind of the Jags this season.
It's a very compelling bet. It's hard to believe they're not going to pay off. They're just a little crowded. That's the only thing. Maybe every
Sure.
week won't hit, but the spikes will be high because that offense is going to crush.
Yes.
All right,
Yeah.
coming back
And I
around.
would totally.
We have the
Ooh,
Herbert or Lawrence option. The team after us has a week 7 bye. They might pass, but uh, either of these makes sense to me.
what quarterback do they have? What quarterback does
He
King
has Allen.
with the week 7 bye?
Yeah. We have 5 seconds. You want Herbert or Lawrence?
I'm fine with Herbert. Let's just get Herbert here. I don't think we have to like test our luck or try to push things.
No one has
Um,
to twist my arm to draft Herbert. I'm at 30% Herbert, and it's been rising. It's probably like 32% now.
it's a
I will say,
logical spot on the board. It's not too expensive. It's just fine. It's a totally fine spot to take a quarterback. I'm expecting him to go. Yeah, he goes tight end. I think he probably grabs a wide receiver here. I'm curious if he goes QJ or Addison.
if we take T Law, we're gonna have both with a week 7 bye. So just keep that in mind. We would probably need a third if we go T Law.
He goes Addison. It doesn't really super bother me. I do think we push quarterback because we made the bet on Herbert.
Uh-huh.
I'm actually kind of interested in either Harvey or QJ. I don't know that we have to double stack this early. I think we do need an RB3. I'm pretty in on Harvey.
I'm willing to take Harvey if you want him. Definitely running back, I think makes more sense. Also, just trusting the lad bet is the right one to make, I think makes a lot of sense. I like QJ, but I'm not dying to overload lad
Sure.
and QJ with Herbert.
Yeah. If we took Lawrence there, we close the door on the QB opportunity we get in the next few rounds where we're going to see Kyler Murray go. We might want to
Mhm.
stack him up.
Yeah.
We would see Bryce Young go later, which I know neither one of us really love that, but we did make the bet on T-Mac, and it could be a really cheap option. I in a Best Ball Mania a couple nights ago, I took Bryce Young at pick 201 to
Okay.
stack him with T-Mac. And so
Shit.
like sometimes if you have T-Mac, no one else wants Bryce Young and you can just
Right.
push him like way past ADP.
At 201, I'm in. That's the
I
that's
know
the whole
he
reason I was in on Rodgers so much, because it was like, well, this is just so
it's
effing
free.
cheap. Yeah, it's completely free. So at that rate, I'd be down. I don't know if I would trust a pick 201, but if we get to 180 and he's still there, I'm definitely in. It would make sense. So
Yeah.
yeah, we got the option, and we definitely have a sweet ass pocket of quarterback options in the next turn.
I don't want to overinvest in a position with the opportunity cost of like giving up running backs because I'm a pretty strong believer in the running back clip this season. And most of my drafts, I will say, I typically have three, if not four running backs by round 8, like pretty consistently.
Yeah, same.
And on this team, we're in good shape. I definitely. I mean, getting Saquon, you're making a big bet there. The Price thing with the Harvey, to me, they're kind of similar bets. I know we took Price like way earlier than Harvey, but I think the Broncos are a good team. I think Harvey, he had a ton of touchdowns. He had 12 total touchdowns last season. They bring in some Jonah Coleman competition. Maybe I need to draft more Jonah Coleman, but I've been really playing it through the Harvey path, and I'm not intimidated by Dobbins. Dobbins was fine. He's a good rusher. He had no ceiling for fantasy last year. I think Harvey, if he
Yeah.
takes over any amount more touches than he had as his rookie season, he's going to be a great pick to pay off like his ADP, I think.
Pre-draft, I was taking a ton of Dobbins. I thought him versus Harvey definitely made sense. Like before
Yeah,
Dobbins signed, he was going in the 130s. I was like, I don't see him not coming back, even if he
he was
does.
cheap.
He's really a good runner. But when you look at his game log, he's never really cracking like 16 points. And if he does, it is very dependent on a touchdown.
Yep.
So with his injury prone, history, it's hard to believe you're getting a full season. The Coleman drafting made me stop drafting Dobbins entirely. And now that Harvey has fallen this far, while he's maybe not my favorite click in the world, I think if you're gonna want a Broncos running back in best ball, you need the highest ceiling, and that's by far away Harvey over the other two. Harvey can drop 25 while
Yep.
Dobbins is still healthy. Like that's where I think it's very clear. Clearly a good bet.
Dobbins was a floor play based on high volume touches,
Yeah,
and Harvey was a ceiling play based on efficiency.
I
I
think
want to bet on
Kyler's
a guy to get more touches. I think it's Kyler here, unless
the
do we
team
think there's
behind us
any?
has Addison. I think it's Kyler.
Yeah, I think it has to be, and he already has a tight end. I don't think Fannin is worth passing up on Murray. I'm cool with Fannin or Pitts with our next selection,
I think
unless
we'll
there's
get one
another
of the
pick
tight.
here.
I'm pretty convinced we get one of the tight ends. If not, I think it would be
Yeah.
Brooks for me. But I think
Yes.
Pitts, Fannin, Brooks goes. Not that big of a shocker.
Big
He's a value
riser.
here. Yeah. Remember when we took him on your stream at like pick 160?
Gosh, wow. Yeah, throwback.
That was
Can't get that price anymore. Hey, I saw an FFPC draft,
quick.
a high stakes draft.
Do you want Fannin or Pitts?
Based on how this team works out, I did just sell us on the Falcons. Maybe we just do it. I think ADP. Go ahead and throw in Fannin though. Throw in Fannin. Let's get risky. Yeah, I'm not always an ADP bro, but if we get a nice fall like that, it's hard to resist. That's more than 10 picks. It's like a full round.
Yeah, definitely worth mixing in round 10. Harold Fannin.
Let's get him when we can get him cheap if we're going to take him at all, right?
Yeah, definitely. I don't have much Fannin. I think the last time I took Fannin on stream was at pick 104. So this beats my record.
Okay.
I kind of like this happened like maybe the last week of the pre-draft contest or something. And when I saw Fannin in the hundreds, I was like, I don't think I'm going to take him again until he's like late 90s, hundreds, if I can get him this cheap. And then slowly but surely, as price has fallen this far, it makes sense. It's way more crowded this year than it was in Cleveland last season. He deserves to fall, but I think you twisting my arm taking Fannin over Pitts is probably wiser given the price drop. But who knows? Man?
I honestly I like them both. Not that I'm overdrafting both. I feel like I actually do draft more Pitts. But
I'm pretty underweight on both myself, to be completely honest.
It's an expensive place to take tight end. I'll say that, but I don't think there was a quarterback there that we had to have. And then Brooks going cemented the fact that I wouldn't have to have these running backs. I do see Rachaad White rising a little bit. I know you were at least in pre-NFL draft best ball. We're drafting a good amount of Rachaad White. Has your stance changed on him at all, or are you still drafting him at like a regular clip?
If I'm only drafting one commander, I'm taking Rachaad White over JCM. I'm definitely pro Rachaad. I don't think his snaps are going to go anywhere, where I think that JCM can legitimately just become irrelevant by the end of the year. I don't trust him that much to take him in round 10 over Rachaad. And maybe he has a better skill set for best ball, kind of like the Dobbins Harvey discussion. Like JCM can give you a house call a little bit more often than Rachaad can. But Rashaad's going to stay on the field, and he's also had like consistent production with like 90 plus yards. Like 2 years ago, like before they drafted Bucky Irving, Rachaad was really a valuable piece in fantasy. So I'm not convinced he's going to crush. I hate that he's this expensive. Like I was taking him all day when he was pick 160, 150. That was a no-brainer. But now that he's 120, 116, it's not as exciting. Now I'm willing to pass quite often. Like I'm talking myself a little more into Jordan Mason, just because Jones can definitely get hurt and Mason could crush in that scenario. But Rachaad, not the favorite click in this range, but he's one of the values that, like, if he's your RB3, that's one of the last names where you kind of made it out okay. It's not great, but if he's your RB4, you're in a good spot. Speaking of which, JCM makes it back. We could take him at this discount. I don't hate it. 11 picks.
Right. I'd be between him and Tracy. I like them both. I like them both a lot more than Mitchell. I don't really draft Keaton Mitchell. I think he's the most overdrafted player in 2026.
Discount.
I would go JCM here just because I know we were talking bad against him. I think this is a fine spot, and
but similar to RJ Harvey, if one of them is going to spike with a 80-yard touchdown or just like a 60-yard house call, it's going to be JCM, not Rachaad. So a little discount. I'm down with it.
Big playability.
But I do worry about Katron quite a bit.
Sure. No, I think that's fair too. Maybe, and we're getting him as our RB4. I think Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt is not someone you should expect to get a lot of touches per game, but given opportunity to fill in, I think he can be very serviceable. So it's kind of more of an expensive handcuff type of player.
We got 8 seconds, brother.
Go to running back. Let's go running back again.
Tyrone.
Yep, Tyrone.
Okay.
Or Gadsden. Whatever you want.
He might fall back, but because of the time, I was like, I'll queue him up just in case.
No, you
Gadsden's
convinced
also
me
like,
there. We already had the stack. I'm not afraid to take Gadsden.
if we weren't at pick 11, I probably would have pushed it, but I've seen Gadsden at 150, 150, 152, 155. I've not seen Gadsden that late. So
this is the range where
I
for
don't
me
mind it.
draft capital is, I mean, Diggs was gone. Diggs is a player I can make a good case for.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, none of these guys are going to really rise up or fall that much. This is where we get to the flattening of the draft capital curve. So it's really get your guys, get your stacks, do what makes sense. I could make a lot of arguments for Ferguson over Gadsden in redraft or like heads up. But if we're talking about a single slate, a single game outcome, we're trying to win week 17. Give me the tight end who's stacked with my quarterback, and let's just that's the deciding factor if they're kind of in the similar tier.
I also see Gadsden as like a true like spike week guy. Like there's going to be one, a few weeks where Mike McDaniel says this is a Gadsden game and we are exploiting this matchup as much as possible. Whereas he might disappear times. I think the pairing of Fannin, who's just like a consistent target hog, with someone like Gadsden that can just kind of piece in with a 15 pointer every now and then, he's more compelling to me than Jake Ferguson unstacked for sure. And then Tyrone is just like a little too mid to get excited.
Yeah,
Like we just drafted a bit of a backup with JCM. You have to really believe that Scadaboo's not staying healthy to convince yourself that Tyrone is gonna really crush. So
he's a volume based play at
yeah.
any rate, and if we think Scadaboo is healthy, then I don't really see him being as needed. I do draft a good amount of Tyrone Tracy, but I'm starting to tilt back towards being okay drafting Scadaboo. I know Scadaboo's been very expensive, but Scadaboo was very good when he was healthy. So
I'm very
I'm
worried
kind of
about
like back and forth.
I was on Tracy for a little while, but at the moment I'm starting to get very worried that Scadaboo will skyrocket up into the third, especially with the Jacobs situation. Like Scadaboo versus Kyron and Javante, I think is already a discussion. So
Yep.
I've been trying to get back on that bandwagon in recent weeks just to make sure I don't have to spend round 3 capital in August to try to catch up. But I wish I took a bit more Scadaboo. I'm starting to definitely believe in Scadaboo.
If Scadaboo's healthy, it's not even close between him and Tracy. Like
yeah.
he's practically you're getting 50% more fantasy points per touch from Scadaboo than Tracy. And so Tracy becomes more of a volume dependent play given Scadaboo's not active. And if Scadaboo's active, like how could they not feed him the ball is what it comes down to. We're coming up with this next pick. We have a 2-4-4-2.
I think structurally we got to go receiver or running back. I don't think we can afford a third tight end.
No, it's too early for tight end. I'm okay with Naylor or Tucker.
I prefer Tucker anyways, so I wouldn't mind Tucker at all. If that's what you want, I'm totally down.
Yeah, that's kind of how I've been playing it in this range.
I'm down. He is a consistent on-field producer. I'm not always sold that just because Naylor gets 15 million in free agency, he's gonna crush. So I'm Trey Tucker over him. What would you like for the second selection? We got 12 seconds.
Go to QB real quick.
It's Rodgers.
No. Let's go to either Boston or just like Debo.
I'll take Boston. I'm fine with Boston. We have the Fannin bet, so maybe not want to be too overloaded on Cleveland. But versus Concepcion at ADP, I'm much more intrigued in Boston because like he had a very talented profile coming into the draft. Like I kind of liked him. I just hate the landing spot. And if you're telling me I get Boston 40 picks after Concepcion, I'm definitely more interested in that.
He's cheap enough. We're just kind of taking swings here. I think if there's any kind of breakout for Boston, I'm trying to think like what that means for the Browns. I think I like the idea that we have him with Fannin though, because we're just saying the offense is better than people would expect. And that's good enough for me. Like we don't really need much out of a 14th round wide receiver 5 pick. He's our 5th wide receiver, right? Like or is our 6th?
I believe it's our 6th.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's our 6th. We don't need much from him at all. Like I think we're getting a rookie. We're making a late bet. If we would have taken any other position here, uh, Bryce Young was long gone, so like that whole idea is far past. And then I really don't like these running backs here.
No.
When it comes down to wide receiver for me in this range, I like to take shots like this. Tight end, I do like tight ends in this range. Given we kind of double tapped tight end pretty quick in the middle rounds, I don't feel like that same urgency though. But if we get really lucky, maybe Hawkinson comes back around. I don't even think we need him. I'm not, he hasn't gone yet. Yeah, he's still available, but like we don't need him, but
No.
he would be kind of an obvious switch back to tight end if Hawkinson was there with our stack. If not, like, do you have a running back that you prefer before you just wait until like the last round in this kind of like middling zone where you might be looking for your RB5?
In this zone, I'm pro Sean Tucker. I'm kind of really fading Bucky, so the discount with Tucker is compelling. You know, I love Tank Bigsby but on a Saquon team, I would have never pulled him up.
Sure.
And then Brian Robinson does speak to me because similar to Branch, I feel like the Falcons offense just has a lot of cheap options that could definitely pay off. But just to answer Paul's question real quick, I kind of fell behind. I have ranks, I just don't upload them into Underdog.
What's up, Paul?
But thanks for asking. John Tara regret passing on Rashad, so he went like immediately after.
Yeah, he's drafting right before us, so we get. it's funny when you're a room full of people who are drafting next to you, of course.
Who thinks JCM might already be irrelevant. Fair.
Oh man. Is that a big bias for Rashad White or a big bias for Katron?
If I had to guess, it's more a Katron belief, but I do think last I checked, Hames still thinks
Hawk
Rashad
and Trey Harris going right before our pick is kind of disappointing, but we'll be okay.
I think with the Ladd and Gadsden bet, it's not the end of the world. And then with our tight end room, it's also not that big of a deal. But Bigsby's still here. That's interesting. What would you like, though? Definitely not Judy.
Let's push him. I would.
You want to just take your boy? You want to just?
But yeah, this it's not the worst place to go. Branch. We could do that unless you
just want Bigsby.
No, unless you want Barner, maybe. But
let's take Branch.
Let's go Branch,
and then we can think about it.
Self-fulfilling.
I don't think I want a tight end here, to be honest. I think I kind of just want to bet that Fannin and Gadsden.
You thinking that we stop with 2?
I think we could. The decision is, do you want to stop with 2 quarterbacks as well? Because then we're just really loaded up on depth at flex. I think we need a running back, though. And
show me those running backs, because I could be convinced. I just don't love the guys here. We have Bill, so we can't go Katron as easily with a. So then in wide receiver, we don't need.
I mean,
I won't draft Kamara. I don't hate Bigsby, but we have Saquon. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to.
I think
Emmanuel Wilson. We have Jadarian Price. Let's go. Right. Let's go hit up the.
We have 4 seconds, bro.
Either go Bigsby or let's go Barner. Let's go Barner. Let me convince you.
It's fine. I didn't have.
No, we got Bigsby.
We got the handcuff. Maybe Saquon gets us there, and then like I'm betting on the injury, we still get Bigsby. I mean, it's tough for me to pass on Bigsby even with Saquon, but I'm not going to pull him up. If he falls to 182, fuck it.
No, it's totally fine. And I think in this range, like we're just taking guys who at running back can have some contingent value. We're not necessarily betting against. I mean, Tank Bigsby could have standalone value. It doesn't necessarily require that Saquon goes down. I think it might be a narrower kind of outcome to aim for, but let me jump to a different player. Brian Robinson. I've heard a lot of people talking that he's a pure contingent play, and that's why they don't like him. I think he has complete standalone value. If you look at what Tyler Algier did last year, how do we know Brian Robinson isn't better than Tyler Algier? Tyler Algier's never had the same success that like Brian Robinson has had. Brian Robinson's been a featured back, been the RB1 in offenses throughout his career. Tyler Algier's never had that. I mean, even in his rookie season, which was his best season, wasn't that good. He had a career high 8 touchdowns last season. I think Brian Robinson has standalone value. He's going to be touchdown vulturing from Bijan. He's going to be a short yardage back. The Falcons brought him in specifically because actually Bijan was pretty terrible on 3rd and 4th and 1 last season. You wouldn't think that, but I think it was a combination of bad play calling and bad luck where defenses were expecting Bijan to get the ball on short yardage conversions and they just stacked it against him. He was like, I think 33rd in the league in converting 4th or 3rd downs in 1 yard. So it was like very bad, like relative to what you would expect from him. So whether that is a fluke or it's a fact, they bring in Brian Robinson, who I think is more of a short yardage hammer for them and probably can vulture some goal line touchdowns. Last year, Bijan had 7 touches inside the 5-yard line, which is kind of hard to believe, but Algier also had 7. You think back to a David Montgomery. David Montgomery had, I think it was either 14 or 15 touches inside the 5-yard line alone. Brian Robinson could either come in and just absorb the Algier role, or he kind of can fulfill that for them. I would not be surprised to see Brian Robinson get 5 touchdowns. And if you told me he gets 7, like that's probably his ceiling, but that means, and there are probably no 2 touchdown weeks for him. That's probably 7 different weeks where he hits your flex. All of that to say, I think Tank Bigsby is kind of in that same tier. I don't know exactly the level of detail that I know about Brian Robinson about how like Tank could fulfill that. But we also think back to a few seasons ago where, hey, is Tank the Jaguars lead running back or is it Etienne? And then obviously it wasn't Tank, but he had some good games. So I think he's kind of that similar caliber of player.
I wouldn't project him for 8 touchdowns like Algier, but I do think 5 is a reasonable argument because I don't think Bijan with his passing game usage is ever going to like just not come up. Like you have to give someone a break every now and then. We are on the clock. Freiermuth falling back here is actually very compelling. There's also Kamara on the board.
I can't do Kamara. I can't do it. But I'm interested in Freiermuth. Who are the QB options?
Quarterback is gross.
Bad.
Like I'm Shador over Watson, but I think this value on Freiermuth is really compelling. So
let's go Freiermuth because we both agree there. Do we need another receiver? Or are we done with 7? I kind of think we're done with 7.
I think we can get away with 7. The top 4
They're
are
good.
really, really good. So I like 7. I think our running back room could definitely use it. If it's a quarterback
but
for
like
me,
what adds value?
A quarterback for me would be Shador.
I would probably lean to stick with our 2 QBs and just go really, really tight. I don't
like
want Kamara.
James.
I would take Braylon Allen over Kamara. I would take James Conner over Kamara.
What about Jordan James over Braylon Allen Kamara?
I wouldn't.
No? You want Conner or you want Braylon Allen?
Connor? Yeah, Conner.
I'm okay with Conner. He needs to be cut, but I think his veteran status and like what he's meant to that organization for a few years, I think if he requests it, they will grant it. So
yeah, I'm curious to see how that plays out. There's really not enough touches to go around in Arizona. So the way I've been playing it though, I'm just gonna bet on talent. We're on June 8th. There's so many things that can unfold. Any opportunity for James Conner at any point in the season, he's better than every other running back left on the board. But you just have to also bet on health. So I think it was an early season. I think it was week 3. He had the ankle injury. I'm not like ready to give up on James Conner. The last time we saw him healthy, he led the entire NFL in juke rate at the running back position. He was like very, very good. He's always been like more of like a bell cow. He can catch passes. He's efficient. He's good. So I am drafting a decent amount of James Conner. I can't exactly explain how it plays out. I'm just going to bet on talent this early in the season because he's way better in my mind than James or even Ray Davis. Honestly, I think Emmanuel Wilson's a fine bet. We already had Jadarian Price, so it's kind of conflicting there. But there's so many running backs that are going in the last round that are just pure projection on are they even good enough to play in the NFL? We already know James Conner is good enough to play in the NFL. It's just where does he get the opportunity? And I think we're a little bit slow to realize the value in that as like a drafting community.
No, if he was on any other team than the Cardinals, I think he would be going at least 50 picks higher. And then depending on the spot, like, if you put him on Green Bay, I think he'd be going like possibly where, I don't know,
So
like
good.
Chuba Hubbard versus James Conner. Isn't that like, wouldn't you rather just go James Conner?
Bro, when was the last time we drafted Chuba Hubbard over James Conner? I know James Conner's not the starter anymore. They
I
have
guess
Jeremiah
last year,
Love.
yeah. But
I know he's not healthy completely, but like, when was Chuba Hubbard ever better than James Conner for fantasy?
I don't think he was. Yeah. I mean, other than just the injury last year, Chuba still didn't really quite deliver. So on a per game basis, I fully agree with you. I love the Connor bet at his stage of his career. Trusting a full season wouldn't happen, but it's literally the last pick, last round. So all of the risk is baked in. Why not? I've been taking him. Quincy's asking, are you drafting Najee?
I haven't clicked him a single time since the NFL draft.
Yeah, me neither.
He's a player that I would wait to see what happens. Kind of like Keenan Allen. I'm waiting to see what happens. I have a lot of like love and respect for Keenan Allen. I have a lot of and I don't know what's lower than respect, but like I still would respect Najee. But as a fantasy asset, I just think the window closes quicker for running backs. And for Najee, the oddity of like his run out, it just kind of like puts a bad taste in my mouth. It wasn't purely injury. It was kind of like his team that drafted him gave up on him. The Steelers just gave up on him.
They kind of ran
That
him into the ground too.
they
Like,
ran him into the ground and they were just like, "See ya." That's like the
yeah,
worst vibes. That's
yeah.
like, and then practically, yeah. And so it got weird from there.
I mean, we don't even know if he can survive the 4th of July this year. Like he
I
still
will
needs to
say
clear that.
he has to clear 4th of July. That's a fact. That is so true.
Huhaim saying Stefanski, when having an elite running back, uses that elite RB. Oh, I don't fear Bijan dropping at all. I just think at some point, Brian.
So here's a fun fact on Stefanski. I guarantee this is a Candyman guarantee. Bijan snaps will go down year over year. Stefanski, the highest he's ever, and it's Nick Chubb, but in Nick Chubb's prime, 55% of snaps. He was not getting anywhere near. Bijan last season was in the mid 70s. He was like low 70s. It's going to come down. The efficiency will go up. The play calling might be better. There's very, very low precedent to suggest that Bijan snaps will actually go up. They should go down. It should balance out with the efficiency and the play calling, the play action, the snaps under center. But even when Chubb was in his prime, and I know Bijan's maybe better than Chubb, maybe not as a pure rusher, but as an all-around can do it all back. Kareem Hunt was still getting a ton of work. So that's where I kind of come back to Brian Robinson having like an actual role. If you think back to the Kareem Hunt role, he was a flex play on the Browns. I think Brian Robinson kind of can have some flex appeal. So I've been drafting a decent amount of him based on me deep diving into Stefanski and how he uses running backs.
I have drafted a shit ton of Brian Robinson, so I'm not going to push back too hard, but I will say, like, the pass catching profile of Bijan blows Nick Chubb out of the water.
For sure.
Like, Nick Chubb is nowhere near the pass catcher of Bijan, but that still is a factor. Like, he still needs a break every now and then. He's not going to run 90% of snaps, but I for the price, I'm still in on B-Rob. Quincy says, someone get this man stoned. It's been a minute. I'm going to take a rip, and then we're going to review our team. So I wanted to give Chris my full presence for our first draft. We were in a Pitbull. I did not want to have to juggle.
High stakes.
Yeah.
You got to win $100,000 here.
Definitely. But if you want to smoke, I got a bull pack. So anyone that wants to join me, you're more than welcome to. There we go. It's about time. All right, so let's take a look at our team, and I'll let you lead the charge. We got a 2-6-7-3 out of the 11 spot, Chris. Let them know what we got.
Yeah, 2673, more common for me maybe 2 years ago than even last year or this year. But a structure I like to build: Justin Herbert, Kyler Murray, come at me. I mean, easily could be breakout QBs that can finish inside the top 5 any given week. I think the QB room, and we didn't even worry about the QB3. It's best ball. We're going for the ceiling. If one of these guys gets hurt, guess what? This is not our ticket. But if they both are there and competing in the fantasy playoff weeks, you're excited. These are good quarterbacks. Both of their playoff matchups are
I,
very good. I would say good to very good. The
I was gonna say,
Chargers
man,
is a little bit tough, but they get Miami in there. And then for Minnesota, I think it's fine. It's totally fine. They get a game against Washington and the Jets. I like them both. So quarterback room, I give a solid at least a B plus. I mean, at least a B plus.
I think the only question on the quarterback room is, did we need a third? But this isn't BBM. It's not a 1 out of 14, 1 out of 12 pod. It's a 1 out of 6, 1 out of 5. So I think with the playoff matchups,
This can get it done.
Our quarterback room is lit. I'm loving
The
it.
only reason I wouldn't give it like a solid A is because it's not like we grabbed any ADP value. We pretty much got them like where they should go. So we didn't get like any extreme outlier things, but I think it's a very solid running back room. I think we're a little bit weak at the RB3, RB4 inflection
touch.
point, and maybe even RB2 if you kind of read up where we drafted these players.
Possibly.
So we're anchoring on Saquon. We've got some upside bets with some year 2 and some rookie running backs, but I like the way we attacked it with 6. I think Tank Bigsby makes total sense on this team, actually, like looking at it from this perspective. And then, like I said, I've already sold you guys on James Conner. So this to me is a solid B minus running back room. I wouldn't give it a C. We've got Saquon, and we have one of what I think is going to be the more surprising rookie running backs that people are still skeptical of until they see him in action on one of the run heaviest teams, and it's going to be a smash fit. So I'm in on Jadarian Price.
I will say, as much as I loved clicking Tank Bigsby, it was hard for me not to. Now that I see in hindsight, I think maybe grabbing Emmanuel Wilson might have helped us out a little bit, just in
Could have
case
been fine.
Jadarian doesn't have like an elite September. But I don't think we're in a bad spot. The Bigsby selection, a little. We kind of need our Brian Robinson argument to also apply to Bigsby a little bit. But
yeah, some standalone. I think there will be some weeks more than last year we could see some standalone value. I think it's possible. There's a whole Sean Mannion, a whole new play caller and a whole new offense. They don't have AJ Brown. Wouldn't they run the ball more? They'll lose their top target.
I think they will. I also love that they gave Bigsby number 8. Like that's just why would you give a backup a single digit if you don't have a plan to kind of expand his role? He's in a contract season. It's there's a lot of factors with Bigsby that make me believe they do have a strong plan for him. But then you just have to also bet against Saquon if you don't think it's a standalone role.
In worst case scenario, we have the almost certain backup on one of the better offenses, one of the better teams, one of the better scoring offenses, one of the better running teams. Almost certainly the backup. At this point in the offseason, it's kind of a crapshoot for a lot of these teams. Who's the Cowboys' backup running back? Who's the Packers' backup running back?
Yeah.
The list goes on. I mean, there's plenty of teams that are completely undecided. So at least we're just betting on certainty there. The wide receivers I love. We stacked up both of our top 2 pass catchers. Anytime you can do that, A plus. This is A plus wide receiver room. I don't care what anyone says. I've done the projections for Justin Jefferson. The ceiling is still there. I was first really bearish on Justin Jefferson. I was pretty worried, but it's too much of a bias towards what just happened with JJ McCarthy. It's not going to be JJ McCarthy anymore. It's going to be Kyler Murray. We've already made that bet. We're doubling down with Justin Jefferson. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be the Justin Jefferson we remember. He's going to reverse his career year-over-year downtrend that he's had since 2022 when he got paid, since he started wearing the grill and the chains during the games. I think he can still be that guy. We're still getting him in his prime time. Lad McConkey, perfect. Book him in there, a solid target earner every week. We have T-Mac for breakout. We have Brian Thomas for breakout. Trey Tucker, maybe some consistent volume. We'll see if Mendoza can really pay off to that offense, even more so than last year. Worst case scenario, we get Trey Tucker for a 40-point game. I wouldn't expect that again, but it is pretty funny that he's capable of doing that. And like, I think that was I'm going to go to the data of all of the wide receivers last season, of every single wide receiver score. And I have it filtered for week 17. Let me unfilter for every single week. That Trey Tucker was second to only Puka Nacua in week 16. So Trey Tucker in week 3 was the second highest wide receiver score on the entire season with 36.9. Wow, a guy who's capable of that, and he's going at pick 156. Sign me up. Denzel Boston, Zachariah Branch, rookie upside swings, Harold Fannin and Gadsden, and then tack on Freiermuth for a good measure. I would say the only thing we didn't quite do is we didn't quite get the bringbacks in week 17
Right.
for the Jets versus the Vikings or the Chiefs versus the Chargers. I don't want to force it. I don't think it came naturally to us. And in this small of a final, it might not be required. So I like that we stacked our top 2 pass catchers. I think our running back room is good enough. We attacked it with depth. I know our tight end's good enough. We attacked that with depth. We got a good price on Harold Fannin. So kind of that, to me, I give the wide receivers, I think it's a solid A. I think the tight ends, man, with that fall for Harold Fannin and scooping that up, I think it's an A as well. I don't think you can go wrong with that. And then, we got a little stat there with Gadsden.
Even the fall on Freiermuth, I like he's one of the most mispriced options on the board. For him to fall another round, I think is just such a steal. It was quite shocking to me that he was still there. So
this team is a solid overall.
I think it's all just dependent
borderline
on,
A-, B+. I think it just comes down to the luck of the advancement. If we can get out of the pod, this is a fun team. You're like, okay, there's some nice pieces here, for sure, and some fun offenses to be attached to.
Yeah, I'm excited. I want to say we have a high chance, but we did have a lot of friends and family, so I will take a look.
It's a sharp room.
The members in here. I know that John Tara is a member. We also have Keith in here, who's a member, and then I just want to make sure. So Super Beast team, as well as John Tara. I think that's going to be it for the team reviews. If you are in this lobby and you are a member, please let me know. But for the sake of time, I want to get a second draft in. I don't want to waste too much of Chris's time. So let's take a look at John Tara and Super Beast, and then we will move on. You got time for the second one?
Of course.
Candyman?
Let's do it.
So let's go as fast as we can. We got Super Beast at 101 with Dak and Stroud. He did go Gibbs, DeAndre Swift, Dobbins, Keaton Mitchell, Emmett Johnson, and Kamara. Did get a minor fall on Keaton. He wouldn't have circled back. I know you mentioned you don't like the Keaton Mitchell price. There's a tax on all Chargers. That's the thing. You have to accept the tax on all Chargers. And if people want to hate on Hampton enough to steam up Keaton this high, I'll still draft him a little bit. But like you, I think he is probably overrated. I'm a little bit more compelled to just take Kimani Vidal if I'm drafting a backup. But Keaton can still spike. I get the argument, and he is a Charger. He's going to go a little higher. Then we got receiver with Nico George Pickens, who is stacked. Who is the second quarterback? Stroud. So both of those guys are stacked.
I like them both. I like this.
I like this, but I don't love those two quarterbacks individually. So I kind of wish there was a third personally. However, Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman, really, really solid clicks. Dobbs fell to 120. That's always nice when it happens. Higgins right after that, who also stacked up. And then we got Flournoy stacked up. And then Judy at 193, paired with Loveland and A.J. Barner at a nice 192 discount. The tight end room, very nice. Love the fall. And then Loveland is elite. Loveland, I got a question for you, Chris. Would you rather take Loveland at ADP or Trey McBride?
Probably Loveland.
What if they were straight up back to back at like the top of the fourth round, like at the 3-4 turn? What if they were going next to each other?
Probably McBride.
Okay,
but I don't like how my teams look when I draft McBride. I typically don't like how my teams look when I draft Loveland. I like this team, but now if you like, I look at these receivers. I like it. You actually played it out really nicely. You have good values, you have good stacks. Something looks off. As soon as I saw Loveland, I knew what was wrong. It's the opportunity cost of taking these expensive tight ends. It just makes me and not that like looking like it has to look right means anything at all. This team can still smash, and I think it's really well built, good value. The running back room you can't argue against because you have Gibbs and Swift. I think those are super fun pieces. Whatever comes after that doesn't actually matter too much. The quarterbacks are stacked up nicely. You got a elite tight end, so this is a fun team. This is a good team, good values, and it's really just going to come down to the big bets on Dallas and Houston for this team to pay off.
Yeah, for me, I'm not betting on Houston big enough to trust Stroud as your only QB2. So that's where I feel like this team is just missing. I think to advance, I think it will need the third quarterback. I don't trust
So
Dak and Stroud.
scroll down to his pass catchers, and let's
He's
just
built
imagine.
it. He's built it with the argument
Yeah.
that they are. So that's where I respect it. That's where I agree you should build it this way. But I think having a third quarterback is what this team might be missing, because personally, I just don't believe in Stroud enough. And then
Right.
Dak, for whatever reason, can't quite string together two good seasons back to back. I think there's a bit of enough risk where that's what I
Right.
think is missing on this team, the third
And
quarterback.
so he already
keep it alive.
drafted both Alec Pierce and Michael Pittman by the time that he would be considering his QB3. So
Right.
whether it was bad luck that he got sniped on Daniel Jones and Aaron Rodgers could be it, or he just felt like it wasn't worth the opportunity cost when those picks came up. I do remember Rodgers going very early.
Yeah, Rodgers at 164, I think is
Right.
what he might have needed. But is that the Metcalf drafter? Now the Jalen Warren drafter saw him and said, "Nope, you're not going to get him." The DK Metcalf drafter did pass though, almost. But
So in this
even
situation,
with Rodgers, it's a little like it would have been better, but it's also another mid quarterback. The upside, it really relies on Dak, in my opinion.
oh, of course, yeah, and Dak's got it done though
Thought about
before,
you,
so he's not the worst bet. It's an expensive year to buy Dak, but it's been done before.
All right, so I would say as long as Stroud hits, I think this team is great.
If Stroud hits, this team is going to be on fire because you get the double stack there, and I think Higgins is getting some good vibes early on. Can he consolidate the targets in that offense though? As a second year wide receiver, to be determined, but it's a pretty cheap bet to make for Higgins. So I like Higgins in his range. I'm not always taking a wide receiver there, so I don't have I'm not going to be super overexposed to Higgins, but I can make a good argument where it's like, I mean, the other wide receivers that go around there, except for Diggs, I'm trying to figure out like who has more upside to earning targets in their offense and being the wide receiver too. Diggs to me is still like the easiest click that goes near that range though.
I'm definitely Diggs over Higgins myself. Last year I gave Higgins like kind of some blind faith belief, and he just didn't quite pay off. So at the moment, I'm still kind of trying to hear the Tank Dell Jalen Noel camp buzz, because I'm not fully convinced if Higgins is actually a better value than Schultz if I'm trying to like tack on that second Houston pass catcher. Last year I believed in Higgins a little too much, and he let me down. So I've been patient, and I thought his price would fall, but I kind of agree with Quincy. A player who's fallen that I do kind of like, comparable to Higgins, is Coker and even Shaheed. And sometimes you can get them to circle back like 20 picks later.
I would argue Higgins, and I know we saw Coker have a nice playoff game against the Rams. I would argue Higgins is going to be much better than Coker. And then Shaheed,
I'd agree with that.
I would argue Higgins is a much better pick than Shaheed as well. I think Higgins has potential to be on the same wavelength as QJ. He really just needs to prove that he can consolidate those targets and go from a guy that's catching you 3 balls a game or less and very inconsistent to a guy who's consistently getting like 4 receptions a game. At that point, he's going to be, I mean, that's like the up bullish scenario for Higgins, but he's right up here with a lot of guys that go way higher than him. Um, I guess the easiest comp would be Quentin Johnston. Higgins could be Quentin Johnston. It's not too far off of a comp to make.
I don't personally see it. I think it might take a little bit longer, but a breakout can definitely always happen. My gripe with Higgins last year, because I was watching him very closely. He was on several of my teams. Like I was waiting for I held on to him and I didn't make waiver claims because I was waiting on Higgins. He only delivered consistently without CJ Stroud.
Mm,
Stroud couldn't develop the chemistry. Once Davis Mills was the guy, you had 3 weeks of consistent
yeah.
like 9, 8, 7 targets and 2 touchdowns on like 60 yards a game with Davis Mills. It couldn't happen with CJ Stroud. That's where that's why I look at Keith's team and I'm like, I just don't like the Stroud bet, but it's worth mixing in at the 101. He definitely lines up well to bet on. But appreciate you, Keith, with the super chat. Says a fire review. Appreciate you as well, bro. Thank you for being a member of the Blunt Rotation. We also have Juntara as a member. We'll take a look at his team and then we will draft a puppy that we'll give you all a countdown. Hopefully, anyone wanting to get in can also get in. All right, so Juntara has a 3-5-8-2 out of the 9 slot. And he goes Caleb, Jared Goff, and Cam Ward. Let me look for some
I
stacks. He
like
does have
it.
Amon-Ra, Luther, and Carnell Tate, so all 3 up
I
top.
fucking love it.
Wandale stacked up. He
So
also
good.
all right. So yeah, perfectly well stacked. And then I would agree these are 3 of my favorite quarterbacks to take. So awesome. Hampton, my boy. If we didn't go Saquon, that's who I wanted. So I'm in love with it. Kyron and Rico, awesome. RB2 and 3. Now 4 and 5 is a little risky with Singleton and
4 and
George.
5 scares me. At least Singleton is also a team bet on the Titans, so I don't mind that. I like the first 3 running backs enough. Not my cup of tea for RB 4 and 5, but at that point, who knows? So I
To,
can't hate on it too much.
to push it, if you do hit on these late round guys, like those are the names that can really deliver. I am actually Singleton over Tajay. Do you have any stance on
Could
that?
be. No, I at that point, to me, they're both coin flips. I have no reason to have any faith in Tajay. To me, that what it really comes down to is if my RB4, sometimes even RB5, and I've actually been building a decent amount of hyper fragile builds where I stop at 4. I'm stopping at a 4 who's like RJ Harvey or Rico Dowdle. Like if to me, if I'm getting to RB5, 4, if I'm getting to RB4 and it's Nicholas Singleton, I'm a little bit sketched out. But let's hope there's another piece on this team that compensates for why that was the case, because the gap between RB3 and 4 is so vast right here.
It is probably the biggest weakness if I had to guess, because the receiver feels pretty strong at a glance.
It's got to
Amon
be.
Ra,
These are
Luther
great
Burden,
receivers.
Tate, QJ, Wandale,
Super fun.
Debo, Tank for the fun
Yep.
swing, and then Malachi Fields, and he has Andrews and Okonkwo.
I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to think in my mind, is it worth going Mark Andrews in a Okonkwo and instead of pivoting to running back in that range and then just pushing tight end even further, because you're not going to be like winning at tight end and you don't really have a strong correlation to why you have Andrews or Okonkwo. I understand that any given tight, like I actually kind of like Andrews and Okonkwo, but for this team, it's like there's no rationale for why them over any other mid to late tight ends. But if you go to the board, look at the running back opportunity cost around pick 130 and 150. I mean, if
At least with
where Andrews went,
Okonkwo, I think he made the right call. I
I don't
definitely
mind
prefer
it.
the price of Okonkwo versus the running backs there. Like we passed on Pacheco as well. Now,
No, I hate Pacheco.
should he have passed on a JCM? That's another argument, but he didn't have any other tight ends. And to just make the bet that like these guys are the values that you need and just like pushing it for my taste, I think either swapping out Tank Dell or Malachi for just another random swing this late, I think is where I might have pivoted. I think the receiver room is strong enough where having the 8th is the luxury that I would prefer to just invest in, just one more bullet in the chamber at running back. So
you know what I
I
would have done here, and I become kind of like a hyper fragile, like I guess lean like of a drafter. But if you scroll up just a little bit on his team, I instead of Andrews there, I would have taken JCM or Tracy,
mhm.
and then go back to his bye weeks. Let's just confirm his bye weeks weren't like a big issue at running back. Yeah, I would have taken JCM or Tyrone Tracy and been done at running back with those four. And then I would have attacked tight end later and just grabbed three and just not cared at all who those three were. And I think this is me being hypercritical, but like that's kind of the way I like to play it. Is just you're already not going to be the favorite to win at tight end. So just push it a little bit further and get one more running back that can hit your flex, because I have such low confidence that Singleton or Jordan James are going to be hitting your flex. But the tight ends here, I think the difference between a Mark Andrews and a Conquo versus like any of the, if you just grabbed three tight ends that were from a Conquo down, those group of three tight ends probably is pretty equivalent to like those two any given week.
Well, I'll push back a little bit, Chris. In my opinion, I think the late round eighth receiver is the only thing I kind of is the main
the problem.
disagreement I have. It's my if there was a way to improve this team, I'm not saying it
Just go
actually
7 receivers.
Yeah, I mean, if Huhaim's stance is that this is a perfectly fine running back room, if Singleton and Jordan James see the field, then it's gonna be fine. But I think having that extra running back, I think, is
because if there's zeros the whole season, then you've just crippled yourself at running back at the expense of tight end, which to me is like, I'd rather have stronger running backs.
That's fair, man. To each their own. I think he got away with it. I like the bet on Andrews and Okonkwo though. I think those are two that
I like
could be
those
good
guys
values.
too. Yeah, those are good
So,
values.
I think he's all right, but
Yeah,
probably time to move on.
hypercritical. Yeah, I like the team overall. I like the stacks and I like the values.
It was an elite receiver room for sure.
Well, and didn't he stack all three of his top receivers with his three quarterbacks?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
that is just like putting the bow on top of a good team.
yeah. I definitely like it. We'll see who advances this one. I'll definitely name it after the fact. But like I mentioned, we got one more puppy to hop into, and then we don't want to waste too much of Candyman's time. So we're going to give you all
Brother,
a 10 second.
Brother, never a waste. We're having fun. I know it's a Monday night, but we're drafting teams. It's June. This is hot best ball summer. This is what we live for.
We're coming up on 2 hours is the thing. That's the only thing where I'm like, I don't want to keep you to the 3 hour mark when you're 2 hours ahead of me on the clock, and you have a family. You have other demands that I don't. So our both of our times is valuable, and it's time for our second draft. Are you ready?
Let's go.
We are hopping in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Hell yeah. Speaking of
I'm gonna grab another juice.
Go for it. We got another cat on the channel. She was resting, so she's almost upset. But it's been a minute since Leia's been on the channel. Leia's here for y'all to see. I'll put her back down now. All right. So,
how's Leia doing?
She's chilling. She's been getting to know my girlfriend a little bit lately, and adjusting to a new presence in her life. But you know, aside from that, hungry as always, and living the dream. She has no job, no bills, and she gets to sleep as much as possible. Envious.
Very nice.
All right, so in this one, we got Super Beast in here, TD Vulture at the 2, Game Tight. Underdog, I think, is watching. Shoddy might be watching. Montano Maida, I think, is a member, if I'm not mistaken, recently signed up. And then
hell yeah,
Underdog's anonymous next to us at pick 11. We pulled the 112, so staying on the right side of the board today. Do you prefer the right or the left side of the board?
Probably I prefer the right side.
Same. The running backs in the second round feel like such stronger picks than any of the receivers. And like if you give me a pick 4 or 5, I'm pretty upset when the run is over and I'm stuck building a wide receiver, or Puka Bowers, Puka
Yep.
London. I'm I hate it.
I feel the exact same way. Yeah, we're on the same wavelength there. I like the opportunity to take whichever running back you feel like you want in a given draft in round 2 when you're early enough. If I'm drafting, like you said, out of the 4 or 5 spot and I start with a receiver like Chase or Puka, I just am hoping a running back falls to me. And when they don't, I get really upset because I feel like I'm forced to take that second tier of, or even third tier of wide receiver or one of the elite tight ends. And I'm not going to like how it builds. And then who my RB1 is Brees or ETN. And I just feel like, oh man, it used to be Jacobs. And I actually kind of liked Jacobs, but I understand like the uncertainty of his legal situation. I probably for the last, since the Jacob news, I've been drafting probably too much Jacobs because if he's in the 4th round, I typically don't pass on him unless I'm so early in the 4th round, like we were in the last one, where I still really need wide receiver or like prefer wide receiver for some reason.
Yo, Montano, appreciate you joining the blunt rotation as I speak it into existence. Thank you for joining. We're coming back on the clock. I will
Is
ask you
that
a
Brandon
question.
Ayuk?
Yeah, the Ayuk mugshot. All right, we
Is
got
that a
two.
real mugshot?
I think it's Photoshop, if I had to
It's
guess.
got to be fake. He's never been arrested in a jersey. That'd be crazy. That'd be insane. Let's go Cook for sure. People forget he led the league in rushing last season, and he's on the Bills. Let's go.
Who do you want to pair him up with? Do you care about the Hampton Week 7 bye as
I
well?
um
Do you want to go somewhere else?
I
I,
want
I have.
I want HN.
All right, you get the bring back.
Well, not even just that. Um,
Just believe in him.
I was a HN. I was against HN for most of this offseason so far, and
Real quick,
I
I think I'm
yeah,
going to take a rip for Montano,
perfect,
but I'm going to do it on my end. So keep
perfect
talking.
timing. Yeah. So I was kind of like afraid of the HN pick. I think that's the easiest, most surface level like approach to HN is to say he's on the Dolphins. They suck. Okay. Uh Look at the game logs for HN. He's putting up huge spike weeks without even scoring touchdowns. The guy is a bell cow running back. He gets all the touches in the passing game, in the rushing game. He's dominant. He's the only good running back on his team. Jalen Wright sucks. Ollie Gordon, maybe good in college for a while, sucks in the NFL. HN's the guy. Maybe some of these dump off passes go away because it's not Tua anymore and it's Malik Willis who might tuck and run the ball. Sure, he's still an explosive runner. He can still break the slate. He doesn't need to rely on touchdowns to get it done, but touchdowns would be nice, of course. I think HN is still a guy, one of the highest floors that we have among all running backs, one of the highest fantasy points per touch among all running backs. And he's literally in the lowest bucket for percentage of his fantasy points that came from touchdowns last season that he relied on. So if anything, he's a positive regression candidate. He's being slept on across like the entire season. You can make a case that HN was one of the best running backs. You can make a case for HN literally over guys who are going drafted like way ahead of him. Like you could say he's comparable to Jahmyr Gibbs, honestly. He's not that far off. If you get the right spike weeks, HN's the guy you need. Bijan Robinson, HN's not far off at all. And he's in their draft class. He is that third running back that's getting overlooked. So to me, I don't want to be out on HN when his floor is so high and the opportunity is so good for him. All we need is the right ceiling game at the right time. HN had a 37.5 fantasy point game last season. Like one of the best running back weeks was HN. He had the fourth best overall running back score in week 10 last season. And that's right behind like Derrick Henry's week 17 performance. So if HN puts that up in week 17, he's the guy you needed. So he's a slate breaker. He is undeniable. He's the engine of his offense. All of those reasons, a second round pick for HN to me is very defensible. And I'm in. So I'm back in. I've come out like full circle on HN. He's always a player I liked, even though he's an Aggie. But I don't hold that against him. I think he's just explosive and is a fun player. And for fantasy, smash best ball, easy click.
Well, like Kuhames is saying, it's definitely not a question of his talent. Absolutely, if he's healthy, definitely elite. But kind of similar to sustainable. I'm not at 0, but I'm definitely underweight, and I've just been pivoting and just trusting Mike McDaniel. That's been my stance. Where I've been Hampton over Achan, but it's really, we've at least seen Achan produce an elite rate. Like he can really win the week in a way that other players have not been able to prove in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't mind it. I think getting my exposure in the puppy versus the Pitbull is a little more exciting to me. But you make a lot of compelling arguments. The 37 pointer is hard to find with anyone. So
In
he's no
health,
doubt
he didn't
worth
miss
a
any
second
games
rounder.
he didn't even miss any games last season. So I don't know where the health comes in, but
Well, his rookie season was pretty injury prone. You know, his rookie year was not the picture of health. We are back on the clock. I think Zay Flowers is one of the 2 picks here.
I think that's the easy pick. The question just comes: do we go Javonte? Do we go Josh Jacobs? Do we go Garrett Wilson to change things up? I'm definitely in on Zay Flowers here.
I
I
think
probably would go.
I don't mind reaching on someone that goes on the other side of the board sometimes, but personally,
I'd probably just go either Josh Jacobs or Javonte. It's which one you think you prefer.
I think I'd rather go Javonte and just have a really
Yeah.
strong running back room.
Yeah.
I'm good with that. The receivers in the next rounds have been like the next turn is a range of receiver I've been trying to get more of. Like Carnell Tate is a player I think we might
Yes.
be underranking dramatically.
Oh,
Christian
yeah.
Watson also profiles perfectly for best ball. His new contract definitely instills a large target share guaranteed. I also like Rome, who sometimes falls in that range. Rarely these days, but like even BTJ, who we just took, like a really good click. I'm not going to be upset with who we have there, and it's not always a guarantee that we get Tootin or Price. I think the fall off from Javante's ceiling versus what we might be getting with Tootin or Price is actually like we have such a safer bet with Javante, who has no competition at all. It's just a question of is he healthy?
Yeah. I think right there for us, it's like, to me, it's very close between Javonte and Josh Jacobs. They both have no true backup that's going to compete with them for touches. It's just who you think has the better, I guess, playoff schedule. And then with Javonte, there's no like legal concern, which I don't even want to factor that in so much. I do think playing the Texans in week 17 is pretty bad for Josh Jacobs as it is. And then getting the Bears the week before that is not the best matchup. But then when you look at Dallas and their playoff matchup, they get Jacksonville in week 16 and then the Giants in week 17. Those are both pretty fun and they're both home games. So Javonte could be set up for like a really nice playoff stretch if he can make it all the way there at the end of the season and is still like I don't he kind of like the first half Javonte was better than the second half Javonte. And so I don't know what explains that exactly. Maybe it was just matchups. And if it's just the matchups, if he's still getting the volume, which he was, then maybe the matchups are better this year than they were last year towards the end of the season for
It could be a
fantasy.
factor. If I had to guess, it might be the element of surprise, to be honest. Like
Sure.
last year going into it, nobody had any faith in Javante. You know, like I don't people thought the Cowboys were just fucking crazy. Uh, you know, like it's not like the fantasy community really believes in Javante. There was not that much of a recent track record in Denver losing his job practically to convince you that he even had a chance to beat out Miles Sanders. You know, I think that was a big factor early on, and then once the rest of the league saw the tape and adjusted, it was like, well, you're not beating us with Javante in this game.
Yeah, I drafted zero. I drafted no Miles Sanders last year. If anything, I drafted him one time, and someone else helped me do it. I did overdraft Jaden Blue, so that was a little bit of a homer take that didn't pay off at all. But I've capitulated. Like, I'm not going to ignore how much better Javonte Williams is than any of the other running backs in his backfield. And really, it's RB is just opportunity. And if he's going to get 17, 18 touches a game, he's going to be a borderline top 15 back. And if he's on one of the better teams in the NFL, at least what we think from scoring opportunity and projections, then he's probably borderline top 10 running back.
That's what he was last year. So you gotta really hate on the circumstances, or just really believe in others to fade him. He feels like a really strong pick in this range right now, especially with the Jacobs, legal situation just
Sure.
crowding over that. Not looking too hot, but I just noticed right now, Montano got a Hampton at 19. This is a weird ass lobby.
And McBride at 30, so kind of a nice combo, like as a run out. And then he still gets some nice running backs with Jacobs and Montgomery. I really like that start.
I mentioned Rome falls this late. I love Rome in this period.
Yeah, I don't know that I have a strong feeling for Rome versus for Watson. I'm cool. I know we have 2 picks. We have to kind of figure it out. If you want Rome to be one of them, I'm cool with that.
I definitely want Rome to be one of them. So we took BTJ on the last one. I'm happy with Christian Watson if that's what you want. I don't mind it, but week 17 factoring in, I prefer BTJ's matchup than Watson against the Texans.
Yeah, let me that could be a good tiebreak. Let's
go Watson though.
Let's go Watson though. Let's go Watson. It's a good argument though.
The Houston game is the only reason why I'm like, damn, the Packers don't excite me anymore. It's why I'm like not as excited on AJ Brown now that he's a 2nd round pick. Like, you give me Pat Surtain, fuck that, like the Denver matchup week 17, it just kind of kills some of the upside on AJ Brown to win you Best Ball Mania. But
I think the thing that is redeeming for Christian Watson, and maybe it's somewhat similar for Brian Thomas Jr., but for Christian Watson, we're looking for a big play. Here's the Texans. They did give up the fewest big plays among defenses. They were literally the most, they did not give up big plays. But I mean, as our wide receiver 3, we're kind of also just betting for him to be someone that can sustain throughout the season. 1 more year removed from the injury, less target competition with Wicks gone, with Dobbs gone. I think that really does make a difference. I know Kraft comes back healthy. I think Jordan Love is consistently good enough and has been actually kind of underwhelming the last couple seasons. I think Jordan Love is good enough to support Jaden Reed and Christian Watson and Tucker Kraft. And I don't like the week 17 matchup against the Texans. I think, it's kind of a coin flip in this range. Christian Watson, Brian Thomas. I already kind of made the case that I like Tyson a little bit less than these guys. I like Marvin Harrison a decent amount. To me, there's like 2 universes for 2026. One where Marvin Harrison continually lets us down or has nagging injuries that limit him from playing every game. And in that case, I've been on the record saying I think Michael Wilson's a smash. In the other universe, we see a true year 3 breakout from Marvin Harrison, and he does reach his potential. And in that case, I think he's a smash. So if I have the opportunity to get a wide receiver 3 or 4, and it's one of the 2, and that Michael Wilson's actually been going cheaper and cheaper. If I have an opportunity to get one of those 2 receivers on a team, I really like them as a wide receiver 3 or 4, regardless of who the QB is, whether it's Brissett, who I'm not actually that excited about, but worked out nicely for them last year. I know they have a new OC, but even if it's Carson Beck, I just think, I don't know. In the snapshot of last season, there were so many good spike weeks out of both Marvin Harrison and Michael Wilson, and Michael Wilson especially down the stretch.
You can't quit your boy Michael Wilson, can you? How do you feel?
He gets cheaper. He gets cheaper, and I understand the doubt a little bit. If you look at the splits between when he was playing with or without Marvin Harrison, it does make a difference. Yeah. So I am like accepting of that fact. So that's where I'm kind of giving the 2 scenarios. I think there's 0 scenarios where one of them doesn't pay off.
One of them will, but how much better than what their ADP really is. Like, I don't think anyone's gonna smash, and then there's such a downside for like one of them's gonna be terrible. I think we can agree one of them might be dog shit, right? Like the Cardinals can't really provide that much value to everyone. Like we're drafting 4 Cardinals in the top, 8 rounds. Feels a
Pretty
little
expensive.
crazy.
Yeah, they're always going to be, they're not always, but we expect them to nearly always be playing from behind. So that's
We
kind of like a reason.
we
I
are
don't think
back
we have
on the
to
clock.
force running back. One of Harvey or Dowdle could be nice, but is there any QB here that you would want to go?
I'm
Just
pretty
Mahomes?
pro Mahomes
I
at
think it
this
makes
point.
sense. Yeah.
Um, I think as long as
Let's go
he's
Mahomes first.
healthy, he's going to be great. We could get the bring back with QJ. That was one thing we didn't have on the last team, some bringbacks.
Right.
But there's no guarantee that Worthy circles back. I think Dowdle versus QJ would be my option for you.
Let's go Dowdle.
I do trust Dowdle, so I don't mind it. Not at all.
I
On
like
our
to, I
running
like
back
to
room,
grab these running backs early. Like I said, a lot of the time I'm going more hyper fragile. I'm going more for running backs through 8 rounds. This is like a very like typical build of what I'm doing these years. I'm pushing my luck at wide receiver. I think after the guys who are really good, like we just talked about, we think Brian Thomas, kind of that tier. I was kind of making the case for Marvin Harrison, and then you have like the rookie like Lemon or Tyson. I think Jane Reed's fine. I think Quentin Johnston's totally fine, but it becomes super flat. Like you'll see Michael Pittman go around pick 105, sometimes 115. Michael Pittman's he's a target earner. He's a good receiver. Like he's a good wide receiver 4. So I think it just becomes, and I think Godwin too. When Godwin's healthy, he might not have the highest ceiling, but Mike Evans is gone. Like the guy can earn targets. I think Godwin's a little bit slept on this season. So for me, the wide receivers become flatter before the running backs because the running backs actually start to fall off really sharply in this range. And so I just find myself liking my teams more when I double down on running back early. And then I find value in guys that I like at wide receiver who I like know are veterans who can earn targets.
yeah, the receiver position still has a lot of depth to it. There's a lot of sneaky wide receiver 2s that might not be the most flashy picks, or maybe people are just still living in the past, or just not adjusting to like how things have changed on them. But I don't really understand the receiver prices. In all honesty, like I'm not convinced that Pittman isn't going to be more valuable than Metcalf this year. I
Mm-hmm.
genuinely think that's a toss up at this point in time. I get why Metcalf goes higher, but for the price, give me Pittman all day compared to Metcalf, who's always been a little overrated and definitely questionable decision making, in my opinion. We do have Worthy going at 92. Didn't expect him at 108, but
Fine.
that is a
He's
little early.
expensive.
A little early on Worthy from what I've seen lately.
I feel like
Over
he is going
Addison.
too early.
Over Addison is kind of odd, but Mac Nova, what's up? Any more drafts after this one? I think this is gonna be it. Most likely, I think this is our last one.
I'm gonna name out a few wide receivers that we just saw where Myers go. So like Myers last season, he was in the second half of the season was averaging over 5 receptions a game. That's top 15 among all wide receivers. And he goes in round 8. Sometimes he goes in round 9. Stephon Diggs, 5 receptions per game. Practically the same. Pretty much a top 15 number. And he goes super late. I get the ambiguity right, but he was on the Patriots last season. It was a good fit. Deebo Samuel, also, so there's some ambiguity there. He was at 4.9, right there next to 5 receptions per game. Still that'd be top 20 among receivers. He's going much later. You have guys like Luther Burden. We expect him to be different, but even the second half of last season, Luther Burden he was not getting 5 receptions per game. He was below that. T. Higgins was below that. Mike Evans was below that. Cortland Sutton was below that. Terry McLaurin.
T. Higgins had less than 5 catches per game.
Yeah, T. Higgins was the second half of last season was at 4.7, and over the entire season, he was, let's see, where was T the entire season?
I would have assumed it's more like 6.2, 6.3 ish.
That's really, so the entire season he was 3.8.
Damn, that's so much lower than I would have guessed on T Higgins.
So you're thinking like 6 point, anything above 6.0 is top 10. That's like Olave, AJ Brown, Pickens, Amon Ra, Michael Wilson, 6.4, one of the highest receptions per game among all wide receivers last season.
Your boy. I'd be happy with Pearsall here.
We get a little fall on him. We could use a receiver. It makes
I don't
sense.
think with Watson, I don't think I want Golden. So at receiver, I like Pearsall here. We could get our 5th running back if you want to, but I don't think that's critical. We could go Jordan Love for the stack. Pearsall for sure. What would you like on the second one?
Yeah, I think
could also pull up Kelsey because he's not going to make it back.
It just become so we have Mahomes. I think maybe we go tight end. We can take Kelsey unless we just want to go Pitts. I'm also okay with Love.
3 seconds though.
Let's go Pitts.
Yeah, we got Pitt. Oh shit.
It's fine. It's totally fine. Same tier. With the stack, and I was pretty on the fence about it. I don't mind pulling up Kelsey here at all, really. The recency of like, oh, Pitts was the guy you needed in the fantasy playoffs.
No,
maybe not this year.
Pitts' game log, it's all reliant on that 140 pointer. Nothing else is really that inspiring.
Kelsey was totally fine last season too. Like he was.
Oh yeah, Kelsey was way more consistent, and I also love his matchup week 17. He dominates at SoFi against the Chargers. I think
I like that we get the stack with Mahomes. We don't have to get the stack with Mahomes, but I feel like it is nice because after Kelsey, there's no real good stacking partners if you missed out on Rice and Worthy, and Worthy's very expensive.
Yeah, I was hopeful that Worthy would still be on the board and we wouldn't have to reach on Kelsey, but in the situation with no tight end yet, I'm not fully convinced that Kelsey can't outscore Pitts, and there is no effing chance he's making it back to 132. It just never happens. So we timed out. Pitts versus Kelsey, definitely an interesting discussion, but I'm fine with what we ended up having there. Question for you, though. Are you a little worried about our quarterback depth coming up, or you still feel like we can get away with it?
I mean, we made a big bet on Mahomes. I think he can sustain us. I think I'm trying to think, like, we didn't take Love there. That would have been a consideration. I think you can always take Kyler. Stacking wise, like, we're not going to get Love. Obviously, Purdy's gone. We don't have a chance, obviously, to get Lamar with Zay. And then our wide receiver 2 was who is that again? It's just escaping me right now. If you could scroll up to that.
Rome Odunze.
Yeah, Rome. So I already knew it was a guy who we couldn't stack. So really now we're trying to figure out like just value QB. We didn't force the Kelsey stack. I think it was actually a decent price. It's not like too expensive, and I think it does make sense to get your tight end by round 10 on a lot of teams. And I think we were super balanced. Like we have 4 wide receivers, 4 running backs. And so it's a pretty balanced build. I think we're in a situation where we never have to take a running back unless we get an extreme value or it makes sense or it's a guy we like. So now we're just going to go for depth at receiver. And then whatever quarterback falls to us, we can probably make work because we have the option of like, we could take 3 more receivers. We could take 4 more receivers. And so there's a lot of back stacking options. If you look at the list of QBs who are still available, there's a couple guys that I like more than others for back stacking. Like I don't think Love comes back around, so let's kind of give up on that. Yeah. Baker Mayfield's kind of fun to back stack. Malik Willis is fun to back stack. Cam Ward is totally fine. Darnold's not the worst. I don't find myself taking a ton of Darnold. And then I think
some receivers though. This is an interesting lobby for quarterback though. Like some weird shits. Like Kyler fell to 117 as well.
It's pretty late, and it is a puppy, but it is pretty late for Kyler.
But then there's also teams like Game Tight and Super Beast that only have 1 quarterback so far. Like in general, there's been several teams just fading the position. So this will be interesting. I wonder if the golden drafter passes as well. But if Love makes it back, I think that's an auto click at 132, right?
It would be. There's just no way. We're gonna get our hopes up. Wow, Baker going ahead of Love, that actually might have really tilted this in our favor. I'm actually thinking there's like a 50-50 chance we get Love now.
Well, if it's there, it's definitely one of the two picks. No doubt about it. This team has Kraft, so
If,
put him in a
if
different.
Love goes, I would grab Malik Willis.
Love is there.
Wow.
You didn't
Um,
believe, brother. You gotta
now
believe sometimes.
it's a puppy, so things are crazy. I've never seen Love go at 132. I've
Well,
never seen
now
that.
let's use the clock to make our second pick. I think we need receiver a little bit more than any other position.
I would agree. I think maybe we go for like the asymmetrical upside of either a Travis Hunter or Omar Cooper. Coker's fine. I don't love the Panthers though, but it does give us another stacking partner on the way out.
Unless you just
Um,
want to take Malik Willis, I think Travis Hunter here makes a lot of sense. But 7 seconds,
I'm either Malik or Travis Hunter, and I kind of do like Malik.
we'll go Malik then. Let's do it.
And now we're done. We don't have like we have Achan, so like it is a team bet on the Dolphins, which people would hate, but every single season we're wrong about like which teams are the worst for fantasy. And being a good real life team and a good team for fantasy is not always perfectly correlated, but it's obviously the touchdown aspect of it and like the scoring aspect of it. Their defense is going to suck though, so maybe they're always playing from behind, and that is some incentive to go for more. Try to come from behind and go for more. And so they're playing riskier things, making bigger bets. Malik Willis, deep bombs. I think Malik Willis is just fun because he's the Konami code and he's super cheap.
You know what's funny? I got a little too high, but I legitimately don't draft Achan enough to like remember the Malik Willis stack. I honestly kind of forgot we had Achan for a second. And that is a pretty fucking perfect stacking part. I don't think there's a better stacking partner for Malik other than Achan. So
I've got a late one. There's actually 2 late picks on the Dolphins. There's 3. All of the Dolphins picks are good because
Dulcich, Caleb Douglas, if I had to guess.
Nope.
And then Malik Washington. Are you a double Malik W strategist?
I don't want to give too much away, but so think about this. Achan goes. Who's the next Dolphin?
It's Malik.
Okay. Is there a market inefficiency where the second player drafted on an entire offense is in round 12?
I can't think of another team like that. So,
When's the next Dolphin drafted?
Is it fucking Dulcich?
It's fucking Dulcich in round 17
Holy
or 18.
shit, man.
There's a market inefficiency. You don't have to get everything right, but you can be everyone can be going in the same direction. Oh, we all hate the Dolphins. Okay, well, maybe the Dolphins are a value. We all like the Chargers. The Chargers are very expensive. We all have to settle for high prices on the Chargers. Or we all like the Bears. The Bears are very expensive. We all have to settle for high prices on the Bears. You even said it. The Cardinals are expensive. For some reason, we've all agreed that the Cardinals would be very expensive for those pieces too. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe those pieces are expensive and we're paying too much for it. When in reality, the margin of difference in the value is better for some of these teams that suck, or like the Dolphins are the like easy one for me to point out because
once you frame it this way, I will say you are definitely selling me on
they
just
can't
how
be that
cheap.
bad.
No, you have to find spots where the market is sleeping. You have to find the spots where everyone has faded something to a point where it's gone too far. And for you to point it out this way, the second Dolphin is in round 12. Meanwhile, we're taking 4 Arizona Cardinals, and they're both. If I had to pick one of those two teams to get the number 1 overall pick, I think I would lean Arizona because their quarterback situation is completely unreliable right now versus Miami.
Yeah.
So in this regard, man, you are definitely making a compelling argument, in my opinion, that maybe I should have a few more Malik Willis, Devon Achan stacks.
You know, it's scary.
Achan is the one that hasn't been deflated, though. Yeah. That's the only thing. But go ahead.
True. Well, because people know he's good. It's like people know what they know, and they don't know what they don't know, kind of thing. Like everyone knows Achan's good. You know what's scary is I went back and I know it's a different era of football, but Carson Beck was better at Georgia than Matthew Stafford was.
That's hard to believe, but
it's crazy. But it's
Omar
true.
Cooper falls back, man. This is
that's a sign. I don't know who else we'd want here. We need receiver. Sadiq is fun, but not a must. I actually Well, I guess
Tight end's getting
Strange
bad.
Strange did go. Yeah, I kind of like. I typically do like to go tight end in this range. I really like Strange, but he's gone. I don't mind Juwan Johnson. He's been a decent value every year. I would probably look to
Oh,
Sadiq or yeah, Debo's. I like Debo, of course. If you want to go tight end, I'd go Sadiq. If we want to go receiver, I'd probably go Debo here.
I'm gonna put Debo on the team just because
Yeah, I like
we
it.
kind of faded receiver a bit. We got really a bit bailed out with the value of Cooper here because like if we had double tapped Whiteout in this range with the names that are typically there, like you really got to trust these rookies. I think Omar is more talented for sure than
If Debo signs, not if when Debo signs,
when.
does he go before or after Jaden Higgins?
Depends where, of course. Like
Sure.
obviously with Juwan Jennings, he got the one landing spot where like his price hasn't fallen, but probably deserves to fall. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there's not like a perfect spot for him, so that's where I don't think he would rise above Jaden Higgins. If
Okay.
you told me it was Miami, though, I wouldn't be that shocked.
I just wonder if Miami would invest in another veteran when they brought in they brought in a few. They brought in Tutu. They brought in Tolbert. They brought in. There's so many. I tend to forget them at that point, but I feel like they are just kind of going lean and cheap rather than Debo, who might be. I don't know what if Debo goes to the Patriots? Would that be crazy?
Yeah, but that's kind of
Probably.
like emblematic of like the uninspiring landing spots where it's pretty crowded in New England. Like Kayshawn
Yeah,
Booty's upset with how crowded it is. Is Debo
true.
really willing to do that? I think Debo's either chasing a ring or just chasing money. And there's not that many
What
like
if Debo goes to the Rams?
honestly, I think that's one of the spots where he might go. I could see him just saying "fuck you, Shanahan." I'm going I'm going to the Rams. That would
If
be
Debo's
awesome.
on the Rams, does he go ahead of Higgins?
I probably probably man.
It's tough. How high can they really rise? To me, any player that's going past pick 140 for them to be a significant value, you want them to like crack or at least sniff the top 100. Kind of like we saw Dobbins last year, where Dobbins was going pick 200, then he's pick 180, then he's pick 100. Like that's kind of like the arc of value that I'd want to be chasing, but I have to be able to see that it's possible. And sometimes you just never know. But that's like right now, I'm not drafting Najee or even Keenan Allen because I just don't even know if even if they landed in the best scenario, like how high could they really rise? Where I'd be like, oh, I wish I would have drafted them earlier. If they really landed the best spot, I'll just draft them once I know that.
Yeah, Najee, especially coming off the Achilles, is not someone I really want to die on the sword with. Like
Yeah.
I'll bet on it when I know where it is, but right now it's really not exciting. And I could easily see him just sign like veteran minimum as like just the third guy just to get on a practice squad because nobody's really wanting him on the team.
Damn, Malik Washington goes. That's we don't have to force it, but that's a player I do like. I think he could just potentially lead that team from a wide receiver standpoint. So it's whatever. He usually goes a lot cheaper or later, but someone is a little bit savvy to the fact that we've been calling out the Dolphins being cheap pieces.
Well, we're gonna get at least one player I like here, so
Yeah,
I'm
could
not
be Tucker.
upset with that.
Tucker, Harris, I think are good picks. Unless, at some point you just keep pushing tight end, or do we just take one here? We
I
could
think
do
we should probably take one.
Emmett Johnson for the Mahomes stack. But I don't, we don't have to have it.
I think Trey Harris for the bring back here makes a ton of sense as one of our
Trey Harris
picks.
is a great pick here. He has so much opportunity to earn targets there.
And then here, I think taking tight end or running back would be the move. But we have much more running back investments already.
I lean tight end here. I'm
Same.
okay with Helm. I'm okay with Otten. To me, they're not that different.
Any of these three, I think Dulcich can make it back. So I think
Right.
who do you want? Helm?
It's fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't. Helm, Otten to me doesn't make a difference. It's
I
all
think
just kind
Helm
of
has much
a
more
filler.
exciting touchdown outcomes as opposed to Auden. Auden's a much more crowded offense. It's not that the Titans aren't crowded, but like the role for Helm is clearly going to expand. Where I would assume maybe Auden might be shrinking a little bit. And
Sure.
Otton maxes out at like 4 touchdowns. We need a outlier season. Whereas Okonkwo, like if we just get the season out of Okonkwo that he's put up in Tennessee last 2 years out of Helm, he will absolutely pay off this ADP. So I don't
Yeah.
mind it. I think I prefer Helm personally.
There's some
Other
good
than
opportunity
but
there.
we just took
Um,
Fryermuth in the last one.
Yeah, and Freiermuth
Sorry,
typically
Montana.
does come back around with Helm. So 2 seasons ago, when he was back at Texas before his rookie year in the NFL, Helm led the Longhorns in receptions. So he had obviously more receptions than Matthew Golden. He had more than Isaiah Bond. He had more than Jaden Blue. He was the reception leader for the Horns that year. So he's a reliable target. And I feel like when you have a young quarterback who might be looking for dump offs and looking for a safe target, that could be Helm. I do think Carnell Tate can be like very nice and earn a lot of targets. So to me, I'm trying to figure out how this plays out because you have a guy like Wandale who also earns a bunch of targets. And so where's the squeeze going to come? And so I'm not like 100% drafting Helm because I don't know if he just gets squeezed out between Wandale and Carnell Tate and maybe even some Calvin Ridley who's kind of relevant. But I think he's like super cheap still. So I don't know. I sprinkle him in, but there's guys who are veterans who have shown it to us before, like Otton and Fire Me, if you could make a case for it. It's just like, hey, it's maybe they have a path to better targets, I guess. I don't know.
I think the floor with Fryermuth and Otton is a safer bet. But the way
Sure.
I've been playing the Titans, given the Carnell Tate drafting really, crowds things up, and like obviously he's their alpha. You wouldn't draft him top 4 if that wasn't how you're going to use him. Among the cheap Titans, the one I think is the least affected is Gunnar Helm. Like the receiver routes are in question. There is no competition for who is their number 1 tight end. They have not replaced Okonkwo with any legitimate threat to
True.
Helm. So I think that is just, no one else is playing tight end to pose a problem. So he will be on the field, especially in the red zone. I think Carnell Tate's going to get a ton of attention. And if you've looked back at the Brian Dable system, whether it was back in Buffalo or with the Giants, just look at Theo Johnson last year. He draws up a lot of red zone targets for the tight end position. I think if there's one guy that could be the cheap Titan backstack that you really want, I don't know about Ridley. I don't know about DK versus Ayamanor, but I do know that Helm is staying on the field. I think he's the most compelling one.
Mitchell's a kind of a fun click there. So Dulcich is the easy click.
For sure. I think our receiver room could. Oh, Dulcich gets sniped, of course. I like Terrence Ferguson as our third, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, it's fine. Let's check the bye weeks real quick. I don't mind it, but I think we're good.
We're
yeah,
good on buys.
It's totally fine. Just I think it's fair.
I think we can actually tolerate just 4 RBs if you want to go hyper fragile. So would you like a 8th receiver or 5th running back?
I don't like these running backs. Who's our? I'd go Franklin. I'd queue up Franklin. And then go. Who are our QBs again? We've got Mahomes, Love, and Willis. No, I wouldn't. I would do Franklin over Ty. I'm cool with Franklin here.
Okay. Any reason why you want Franklin over Pat Bryant?
Yes. I guess I'm one of the lone people that thinks Franklin is better than Pat Bryant and has a better chemistry with Bo Nix, and is just a more proven veteran with bigger, better spike weeks. So that's what it comes down to for me. I'm still open to the idea of Pat Bryant. Like I'll draft him sometimes. I know a lot of people like him, but I think to me what I was seeing, Troy Franklin was closer to overtaking Cortland Sutton than he was to losing his job to Pat Bryant. Like by far, it's not really even close. And there was some argument like Pat Bryant was taking snaps from Troy Franklin in the second half of the season. I think that's just kind of overplayed. I don't think Pat Bryant was ever that good. We didn't see really anything from him. For Pat Bryant to go from a little signal to complete zero is more likely for me than from him to go to a little signal to like a useful piece versus Troy Franklin. He's had, I mean, he was top 30 in the league last year for receptions per game. He almost overtook Cortland Sutton by the second half of the season. He puts up spike weeks. He's had touchdowns. I forget the exact numbers. I was looking at this recently though. If you look at Troy Franklin over the last 2 seasons, he's out targeted like almost all of the wide receivers that go ahead of him until you get to guys who are like top 30 picks. Like he is completely underrated. And I think the relationship between him and Bo Nix is enough for me just to kind of hang on that, regardless of the fact that like Waddle's brought in. I think Troy Franklin's super cheap. It's a good offense. And Bo Nix is super consistent as a drop back passer, tons of passing attempts. If anything, I see Cortland Sutton starting to fade out. And I honestly don't think Bryant's that big of a threat to take over Troy Franklin. I'd have to see like more. And I'm not like super fixated on advanced metrics. I just look at results, and Troy Franklin's been very effective. There was a player, I'm trying to think who it was. I was comparing Troy Franklin to a player that goes like 100 picks higher than him, and Troy Franklin was better across the last 2 seasons in like every actual production metric, not just expected points or things like that.
For the sake of like the game logs that Franklin was providing, if you told me that they're kind of battling for that wide receiver 3 positioning, I think Franklin has more of a role that can translate to best ball a little bit more in like a high spike week variance that really helps you a bit more. Like I think the main argument for like why people still, I mean, I'm kind of leaning this way too, but I don't feel definitive on the decision yet, Franklin versus Bryant. But like that playoff game, Pat Bryant had like 10 targets really freaking quickly before I think he went down. But even on that volume, he didn't have more than like 50 yards, if I'm not mistaken. Like he wasn't getting a shit ton of work down the field. It was just kind of like we're moving the chains, death by 1,000 cuts, and we're also putting together like an 8-minute drive if we can. Maybe not 8 minutes, but I think the volume can go to Bryant, but when it shifts towards Franklin, he's the one that can give you a huge game on limited targets, which is most likely the case as Sutton and Waddle are above them. But if Sutton were to get hurt, I do think Pat Bryant would like piece into that role a little bit better. But I honestly can't quite pin down which one I want more of between Franklin and Bryant. But I'm definitely coming around on them being good clicks this late. Interesting. Zero thinks Troy Franklin over Ricky Pearsall. That's
that's who it was. Maybe Zero heard me say it. Troy Franklin, and I know they obviously Pearsall's missed games. I think that's the one though. Franklin is like way better than Ricky Pearsall. I think that's the comp. I think that's the one.
Interesting. Ingram completely worthless. It's odd that we just stopped drafting Broncos receivers like entirely. Like I know they traded so much for Waddle, but it's like really like nobody else is going drafted. I mean, there's probably somebody that's really, really good click down here. So I like the call on Franklin.
I have a fun question for you. Who had more fantasy points last season, Troy Franklin or Adonai Mitchell?
Troy Franklin.
He had twice as many, more than twice as many.
Yeah.
I have to scroll down to find this guy, but I want to find this guy real quick before I get off this point. I sorted it a different way, so it's not going to pop up. Okay. Who had more fantasy points last season? Justin Jefferson or Troy Franklin?
No way it's Troy Franklin. Really?
They both had 145, the exact same number.
Fuck. That's insane. The power of JJ McCarthy.
Yep. Justin Jefferson, his biggest spike week was 17.6. Troy Franklin was 23.9. Way higher. Troy Franklin had 6 touchdowns. Jefferson had 2, yada, yada, yada. Troy Franklin he was essentially better in every way than Justin Jefferson last season. Like, I don't know. Troy Franklin, yeah, maybe he's nothing, but he's a free pick at the end of drafts, and he's way better than a lot of players that we're drafting with higher confidence. I'm not obviously saying that he's going to be better than Justin Jefferson. I think situations changed. And I think situations changed for Franklin too. He's more competition for targets. But I think we're maybe straddling the line where it's like, is it Franklin or Pat Bryant? But if we just look back, like Franklin's been a target earner. He was top 30 in the league last year for earning receptions per game. He had more receptions per game than Devontae Adams. Like the guy can earn targets. He's in a good enough offense. He had the same amount of reception yards as guys like Khalil Shakir, who go way ahead of him, 100 picks ahead. Here's another fun one: was who had more fantasy points last season? You know, Josh Downs, Alec Pierce, or Troy Franklin?
I would guess Alec Pierce.
No, it's Troy Franklin. Way more than both those guys.
You shitting me, man?
He had Franklin had more fantasy points than Romeo Doubs last season.
Alec Pierce had 159.8 fantasy points on Underdog. Franklin,
that's including, but okay, so a caveat, that's including week 18.
Okay, well, it's relevant, man. It does factor in, but much closer than I would have ever thought.
Alec Pierce put up.
You are bringing the heat, man.
Points.
The
more
points
than 50 points per game. It's a week 1 through 17 stat that I focused on because that's what matters for the scoring. But I guess that's a good point because I exclude week 18.
Regardless, you're bringing the heat on Franklin. The points are well made, and I have drafted Franklin on stream a few times, so making that click look better, definitely one I will mix in as well. I'm not sure I'm going to full fade Bryant, but I definitely think you've convinced me I should maybe have a little bit more lean because, I mean, Pat Bryant, just from a raw stats perspective, less than 60 fantasy points. When you only look at it that way, it's pretty clear which one you'd want. So very, very legit. Yeah,
the list goes on.
This was kind of like how I interpreted the skill set. A bit of more of a.
I don't even think Bryant's a boring chain mover. I think he's more than a zero than he is anything like relevant. I've got to. I don't. It just doesn't show up in the numbers. Weeks 1 through 17. Caveat: Troy Franklin outscores Jacoby Myers. He outscores Keenan Allen. Like guys that we thought were like relevant PPR scam pass catchers. He just gets kind of forgotten, slept on. So that's all. DJ Moore, he outscored DJ Moore last season, weeks 1 through 17.
Yeah, but DJ
Parker Washington,
fucking trash.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at our team, because this is an interesting one, and I don't usually draft too many 4 running back teams. You want to take it away? You want to guide the review?
Yeah, Mahomes is a fun pick here. Love and Willis, I would say really strong quarterback room. I would say really dangerous. The fall on Love, I've never seen that. And then we get Willis at ADP, which I think is already undervalued by about 2 rounds. You can make the argument. I know people haven't really seen enough from Malik Willis. Sample size is small. I was not a Malik Willis believer. I am a believer that rushing upside wins your league at quarterback. So that is enough for me to take a risk on Malik Willis. We go James Cook, Devon Achane, Javonte Williams, Rico Dowdle. This is how I kind of like to build teams right now. I would rather have these 4 guys than those top 3 plus 2 later guys. Like this is kind of how I feel, especially when the bye weeks don't overlap. And it's surprisingly rare. I keep building these hyper fragile teams. I almost never have bye week overlaps. And so I'm more reinforced to build them. For some reason, the bye weeks are not a huge problem this year with the running back position and how things kind of fall. I don't know what it is. I know there's a few guys that overlap, like week 11 and week 13 are the 2 you have to watch out for.
Right.
But solid running back room. I don't think anyone could argue this running back room can't get it done. Yeah, wide receiver, obviously.
Real quick, the only thing I've noticed I've been trying to avoid when the bye weeks factor in is taking Hampton and James Cook at the 1-2 turn, or grabbing Genty and Derrick Henry,
because they're both week 13. Yeah. Who else is week 13?
New England and the Colts. So Taylor Henry is a slight problem.
I would like to do Taylor Henry. It doesn't happen as often anymore, but yeah, that's one. And then there's a ton of guys who have week 11 is the most common buy. So that's one you got to watch out for at some rate. But yeah, running back room solid. Wide receivers, obviously we're playing from behind a little bit. I think Zay's a good pick. I think Rome's a good pick. Christian Watson's fun. Ricky Pearsall, we got some decent value on. Omar Cooper, we got some decent value on. Debo's going to be a riser when he signs. That's inevitable. Like it always happens.
Yeah.
I find myself, for some reason, I'm more in on Diggs and Debo than I am Ayuk. Ayuk kind of scares me in ways, but I know that Diggs and Debo are going to land somewhere and they will rise. So I'm kind of hammering those two guys right now. Trey Harris is a fun click. There's more opportunity for targets with assuming Keenan Allen doesn't re-sign. It's a good offense. We know that. You guys don't want to hear me talk about Troy Franklin because I'm lying, but I like it. And then Travis Kelce, stacked. Gunnar Helm, you talked about, kind of a fun pick. And then Terrence Ferguson, I think I go through phases where it's like, oh, I think he is fun. He's a deep threat. He's exciting. He's on the Rams. It's a great offense. And then I go through phases where it's just like, I can't figure out this Rams offense and who the top tight end is. Maybe I just avoid it. And I end up going like Dulcich or Pat Fryermuth in that range. But I think both those guys were gone. So we kind of landed on Ferguson. And anytime you get exposure to the Rams, I'm not going to hate it.
Yeah, the Rams tight end room is kind of just how I play the Jags passing game. It's like you're not going to get a consistent one every week, but it's an offense you absolutely want to bet on. And given the price, you should probably just take the most talented one above the rest, but you kind of just want to bet on it. You know they're going to use all those tight ends. They're not drafting all these tight ends and basically making the leap pivot to a 13 personnel type of, play calling style. Like the Rams are pioneering this heavy tight end approach. They're going to use them. And I think Ferguson has the best ball skill set that will deliver the most like long shot touchdown. Like I had Ferguson a lot last year and he was on some of my playoff teams and there was no other like Rams tight end where I was more excited about like a 12-point game, a 14-point game on only like 3 catches potentially. He doesn't need a lot of volume to pay off. So I like him the most for sure in LA, and that's an offense I want to bet on. There's no other Ram being taken after Stafford and Corum.
I know. It's weird. That's an opportunity.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like the team, man. I think our hyper fragile bet made a lot of sense with the Javonte click in hindsight. And then I love Rico Dowdle. So I'm willing to risk it. This Achane Malik Willis stack is also kind of underrated. And then the love Christian Watson price was just so affordable. Thank y'all who were in the lobby with us, fading Jordan Love that far. And then our Mahomes click, like you said, super fun with the Kelce matchup. Trey Harris bring back. This team is really, really fun. I think we would never get this type of build in like a Best Ball Mania or the Pitbull, but it's
probably
a puppy. Weird shit happens. It's worth mixing in. So I'm excited, man. Good, fun team. Are you down to review some other ones, or we're past 10? If you got to go, I understand, but
yeah. Let's do quick reviews. We'll do quick reviews. I do have to sign off quickly or soon, but let's do some quick reviews. We got a lot of good sharp drafters in this room. Let's see what they did.
Before that, just a reminder, if anyone hasn't done so already, subscribe to our friend Candyman's channel, the Fantasy Football Garage. The link is in the description. We also have a promo for you on Underdog in case you are unaware. You can play $5, get $50 in bonus entries using promo code BLUNT. Link is also in the description. And you also get your first deposit matched by 50% up to $1,000. Lastly, we also got a 20% discount on the FanSpeak Best Ball Guide, and the link is also down below. But let's take a peek. We got some members in here, and I do think we may have possibly, if Game Tight was in the last one, I may have skipped on Game Tight. Not sure if he was in the last one or not. I don't think so, but he's definitely in. He was?
Yeah, it's all right.
I'll take a look as well after if you have to go, but we'll start with him for sure. My bad. All right, so he has a pick 3. He had Jalen Hurts, Mendoza, and Kirk Cousins. Both Raiders.
Interesting.
Not a bad way to play. It's definitely cheap. let's take a look at the rest of it. I assume maybe he has Bowers, if I had to guess. But
I kind
Travis,
of like the running back room.
a running back, I like Quinshawn, Blake Corum, Brooks at 118. Don't see that too often. That is nice. And then your boy, also my boy, Brian Robinson.
Yeah,
Uh,
somehow I some the week 11 buy is a little bit concerning because you're only going to have Brooks and Etienne. It's not the end of the world.
I think you can
I
get away
think
with
I
it.
Yeah, you get away with it. I can tell what you did here because given that Etienne's your RB1, you've got Chase, and I'm assuming you've got either Bowers or McBride. I think it's Bowers given your
It's
stacks. Yeah.
definitely Bowers.
Yep.
Jamar with Terry McKay, Josh Downs, Travis Hunter, Naylor, and Wicks. So a
Fine.
couple back stacks on Hertz, not bad at all. And then the bet on Hunter. Whenever I have Hunter, I kind of prefer an 8 receiver build, but it also has Jamar. So kind of
Yes.
hard to worry about too much. The third tight end though, with Bowers, Likely, and Stowers. So the alliteration that could be valuable. The stack as well. What do you think? I don't mind it. There's really nothing I can call.
In week 17, do you think it's likely Stowers or likely Bowers that hits your lineup?
Um, I don't believe in Stowers. I've invested so much in Goddard. I'm definitely not telling you it's Stowers. So if there's one click I wouldn't make myself, it's the Stowers on this team.
I just thought it'd be fun to say likely Bowers or likely Stowers.
I I guess I missed that. I was so locked in visually on the word, but yeah. Which one would you bet on?
uh, it's interesting. I think Stowers this cheap is kind of a fun click. I do have a lot of Goddard. Uh, I've seen some crazy things. I think it was earlier today. I was listening into to Pat and to Pete drafting on Best Ball Breakfast, and they took a team that was, I swear it was Bowers, McBride, and Gesicki. And I was just like, what are we doing here? So stranger things have happened. I can no longer like people are drafting 3 tight ends regardless of how much draft capital you spend. And I don't think it's necessarily wrong because the thesis on drafting multiple tight ends, you could make the argument it's draft capital based. But if you're talking about like injury or just like having more shots on goal, it doesn't matter like the draft capital. Like Bowers is just as likely to get injured as anyone else, regardless that we draft him in the first or second round. So like
Right.
I kind of see that. And that's kind of like my base argument for usually going 3 QB. Like you'll hear people say, "Oh, I didn't take the third QB because I had Lamar Jackson plus Jared Goff. That's too early enough, or maybe it's even more expensive, like Dart and Lamar, or like when we kind of like double tapped Herbert and Kyler, not necessarily one after another, but like we felt good enough with those two. But
Hmm.
the argument for 3 shouldn't be draft capital based. It should just be like the whole anyone can get injured regardless of where you drafted them. So that's kind of what I lean to. So I kind of see it on tight end as well.
I guess the only pushback I can think of is like if you did invest that much and they do get hurt, aren't you a little bit more likely to just be done
Yep.
anyways? So
Yep.
that's where finishing fourth versus 10th is I think why I understand the two quarterback argument. Like maybe we can just get it done if these two guys are that good, but you have to have the right
Yeah.
to is the thing. You
Have,
need
so I've shown up in a week 17 finals with a quarterback who got injured in week 17 or in week 16. And then uh I had only one quarterback who was active in week 17 in the final. And it was a small final. It was like, let's just call it a poodle 2 or something. But I was like, oh, this team is dead. I have one QB to rely on. Like my odds of winning this thing are substantially lower than the guys who have 2 and 3 QBs that aren't injured. So at that same moment, I was just like, what is this 8th receiver adding to my team? I wish it was any quarterback I could have drafted. And sometimes it's guys like Dart you could have gotten that late, or it's guys like Stroud in different years, or even Bryce Young who sucks, but like 13 points at QB, and sometimes he puts up 30 points is meaningful. So I don't know. I've just seen enough instances where I end up in week 17 and I'm so happy to be there. But actually now my team's dead because like my onesie positions have just like have like crash landed.
Well, given the massive finals that we're having to deal with, that's even a more compelling argument. Like
Hmm.
the pod of 1,000 people, you probably want as many quarterback options as possible.
I
Um,
can see that. Yeah. You can't just run pure and be like, hey, everyone that had you needed Brock Purdy in week 17. There's going to be 200 Brock Purdy teams, or like not maybe
right.
not that many, but there's going to be like 50.
In
And now you're
theory,
just who has the right stack in it or who has the right, running back is going to what it comes down to. It's a tough nut to crack. It's a fun game. There's still a long way to go before we solve it, right?
I know to assume we know the answers here in June. That's the fun of the game, though. That's the reason we play to make these
Yeah.
bets and say, yeah, I did call this actually. I did believe that all these things would work out. Or I also auto clicked this player that ended up fucking crushing. Maybe you drafted a Michael Wilson last year just because you timed out and you weren't paying attention. But all right, so good team game tight. We love the Mendoza Cousins Bowers combo. I think both of us really like that. Super Beast in at the 101. That's Keith. He pulled up Drake May, Aaron Rodgers, and Geno. So
Nice.
also going with 3 QBs, getting the two cheap options. Not bad at all. Did have to reach though on Geno, but at the turn, that's just what you got to do. I don't mind it at all.
He's got to have Garrett Wilson, right?
He does
No.
not. He does not. I think he
Just I mean, maybe
took him for
it's
the
a decent
points.
value on Geno. Yeah.
We got Gibbs and Swift. Chuba, not my favorite, but Jordan Mason is the fourth, feels great. And then Kimani Vidal, the very cheap last final click, Chargers backup, would be relevant if Hampton goes down. Pickens, Devontae, Evans, Pittman, Romeo Dobbs, and Diggs, and your boy Zachariah Branch. I'm sure.
Strong.
Yeah, I was
Really strong at
imagined
receiver.
you were gonna like this receiver room.
It's
Uh,
almost too strong. I almost wonder because I can see the path for Chuba to pay off, but he's one of my lower exposed players kind of guy I'm fading more.
mhm.
I just wonder, and it's hindsight, obviously, but could you have pivoted away from one of Pittman or Dobbs and gotten a potentially better running back after Chuba? But it's hard to know.
The running backs he passed on for Pittman and Dobbs were Corum, Dobbins, and then Gainwell. I like Gainwell, but it seems like the market hasn't adjusted to like reaching on him in the
Mhm.
90s yet. He's still slowly moving up, but
Mason is a nice addition, though. I'm just kind of surprised. You could have gotten Pittman, Dobbs, and Diggs, and that's like your receiver. Was that 4, 5, and 6? Yeah, like those seem a little redundant. Where I don't even know. I don't even have a good suggestion on like what you should have done instead. Maybe Bannon instead of Dobbs. It just seems like Pittman and Dobbs and Diggs, they're all going to fill a similar role, like being that flex you need. But you've just gotten so much there where, hey, actually, maybe instead of having, maybe the arbitrage here is to get like one of those quarterbacks that went in round 9 or 10 instead of one of those guys.
this was an interesting receiver lobby around this turn. Like a strong run on the position. A couple players
Yeah,
pulled up, like Worthy. Myers went a little early in this one, and then maybe just felt a little pressure there. But with the Pickens Devontae Evans combo, yeah,
right.
could have maybe afforded to pass, but also taking Diggs early. I don't mind it, but waiting on tight end, trusting the stacks and late values. Henry, Okonkwo, and Fryermuth.
Totally
Henry
fine.
is stacked up. I mean, the trio is really a good value bet. I don't mind it at all.
Yeah, I think I'd hate to see you leave points on the board where it's like, um, and maybe one of those receivers is hitting your flex. But I feel like you could have one of these receivers because your receivers are so good. You're gonna have weeks where like one of those guys is scoring like 12 to 14 points, but they're not hitting your lineup because they don't fit into a certain spot. But then you have like potentially your RB2 is hitting for less points, or your tight end is hitting for less points than that. And because of the positional like allocation that hits your lineup, you're just sacrificing a little bit of your maybe weekly floor because your wide receivers are so good when they don't have to be. But it's hard to say. I just kind of feel like, hindsight 2020 type of thing is maybe you'd rather have a Harold Fannin, so you have a little bit higher ceiling at tight end than your first tight end being like Hunter Henry.
If he was always planning on getting Rodgers, then pulling up Pittman makes some sense. I don't mind
Good
that click at
stacks.
all.
Good
A
stacks all
big
around. Yeah.
a big reach though on Dobbs just to get the stack. So that's the pick where, yeah, I think I can kind of agree with you. Or I don't mind this at all, and maybe like instead of Evans, we grab a running back there, so that way we're not taking
Ooh.
Chuba. But
Mhm.
that's kind of a nitpicky
But then
decision.
getting Jordan Mason was like a good RB4. So it's not even like the
Yeah.
RB room is bad. I'm just trying to figure out like
No.
maybe it's the QB2 or maybe it's the tight end 1 that could have been better. And
For me,
just
it's
you,
I
yeah.
think it's the Chuba click where that being a quarterback could also really help this team, because the Geno unstacked is kind of just odd, and like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
bit, like he reached on him too. I think he felt a little desperate with Geno, if I had to guess.
And when you're at the corner, when you're at the turn that happens, like if Geno starts 17 games, he'll pay off. Like he'll be at least hitting your lineup a few times. I think it's interesting, and maybe it's hard to see it, but if I would go May there, I have Stevenson, Pollard, Warren, Chuba Hubbard all in the same tier, and I kind of like some of those guys more than Chuba. So like I'd probably just take Ramondre with May at 72, 73, and like maybe even that, just buying that synergy is potentially a little better, but
For me, I think I would have gone Jalen Hurts with Devontae.
oh
I think
yeah,
I
could
think
have
that's
done
what I
that.
would have done. But we'll see. The running back room at the way it's built does kind of need Chuba. If he's the right click, it was worth it. All right, solid team. Maybe the Chuba click, not my favorite, but Montano did become a member. Gotta shout out Montano. Let's take a look at Montano.
Crazy QB room, but kind of fun.
I know the Carson.
He heard me say Carson Beck was better than Matthew Stafford at Georgia, which is true. Their best season, Carson Beck was better, but crazy.
It's wild to see him on a non-super flex team. But if I had to bet on who is their quarterback in the fantasy playoffs, I think it's Carson Beck. They're not going to be, in position to still hold on to Brissett. I'm not drafting Brissett at all myself. He went undrafted in this one. I think that's the right move, honestly. So I don't. If you're gonna play Arizona's quarterback, I don't mind it this way. Good luck. But Hampton, Jacobs, Montgomery, pretty solid top 3. Dobbins and
Solid.
Tajay. We didn't really talk about him too much, but it sounded like you're in on Jacobs in round 4. Can you?
Yeah, I'm just
talk to me about that?
Any legal news, I completely am going to full fade it because I've never gotten legal situations right. I was fading Quinshon Judkins last year because I was afraid of the legal situation. Right. He ends up not being the guy you need, but he wasn't bad at all. He's still on the Browns, and the Browns suck, but he got injured. But
if you had him in redraft, I made it to the playoffs because of Quinshon Judkins off the waiver wire.
Nice.
I had a really bad running back room in my PPR league. I had a rough snake draft where early on I was forced to fade running back because I had to reach too high. And so I ended up getting stuck with like a Kamara, RJ Harvey, and J.K. Dobbins as like my starters. I was like, and Pollard, who just wasn't fucking delivering anything in full PPR. And like Quinshon off the wire saved my ass. So yeah, it seems like we usually overreact a little bit. And I mean, unless he's just like in jail and like can't be on the field, he's got a contract he's going to play out. So like what, a 6-game suspension, he's still there for you when it mattered. So what's the point where you still pass on, like in the third? Are you still passing just because you can get him in the fourth, or you still take
it comes so the only reason I'm passing on him in the third is because I still like some of those players. And so I don't want to have like 100% Josh Jacobs and just be fading the other players, because even though I think Josh Jacobs is better than some of those players, it just comes down to like a portfolio management kind of thing or like whatever, where it's like, I just want different exposures. Like I'm tiering groups of players. I know that in any given week, a 1 week slate, like different things can happen. So I can't be overexposed to one outcome. Mm-hmm. But I think Josh Jacobs is a great value. I think in the 4th round on every team that I can get him where I need a running back there, if he's my RB2 or my RB3, I'm like extremely happy. I probably need to go on a limb and build more anchor RB Josh Jacob teams, but I'm not like planning that out like in the beginning of the drafts thinking that's going to happen. It just hadn't like really fallen to me yet. I think Jacobs is like an incredible pick where he's going at ADP.
I respect it. Love the Hampton at RB1 as well. Strong,
I
strong
think
running back
Montgomery's a
room.
great pick too.
Yeah, yeah. The top three, as long as Jacobs, like Montana was saying, less than 4 games, you are living. And then receiver, he pulled up Amon-Ra pick 6. I don't mind that at all. Metcalf is the number 2, so maybe waited a bit.
Tough.
But Myers, Wandale, Shaheed, Tucker, Antonio Williams, and the Ridley bet. My only like optimism for Ridley at this point is if he gets traded. But this is why it's a little tough. He has
True.
Trey McBride on this team, and then the Njoku super late. Don't mind it. You did have Herbert as well. So Herbert a little unstacked, perhaps. Only Njoku Hampton. I don't think that's bad, but obviously a Lad Herbert stack, a QJ Herbert stack, even a Trey Harris or Gadsden stack feels a little stronger. What do you think about this? The rest of this team?
I don't mind the receiver. You anchor on Amon-Ra, and then you're getting guys who can potentially earn targets. So like I can see the path. I think it's obviously like a weaker receiver room, but at the end of the day, if Amon-Ra is that top guy, and he's good all season, or if he's the wide receiver 1 in the season, or if he's the guy you need week 17, then like it can hit. And obviously it looks this way because the running back looks really strong, and then you have Trey McBride. So earlier when we were talking about the Titans and we were drafting Gunnar Helm, I remembered a question I wanted to ask you, or like a situation, and it just reminded me. So real quickly, it's week 17. The Titans, are playing, and it's Cam Ward, and they're down, and they're on like the 10-yard line, and it's like 3rd and goal or something.
Okay.
It's a play action. You see Cam Ward, he's rolling out, and open your eyes. You're Cam Ward. You open your eyes and you look downfield. You see Calvin Ridley. You see Carnell Tate. You see Wandale Robinson, and then you see Gunnar Helm. Who's getting the ball to score the touchdown?
Tate.
Probably Tate most of the time.
I mean, again, they're going to be playing the Steelers. I don't think the Steelers really have. Joey Porter Jr.
Good defense.
Mike Tomlin's gone though, man. I don't know.
It could change.
There's also rumors they could trade T.J. Watt.
That would hurt them a lot.
I think Carnell Tate's the stack you absolutely want, but like if the defense is going to be stopping someone and forgetting about somebody else, Helm I think could definitely be just getting the designed play where he does smash in the end zone.
But there's kind of a lot of good options where it's like we've known Calvin Ridley to be a touchdown guy. We know Wandale can earn targets. We think Carnell Tate is going to be like their true alpha. They invested a lot in him, a top pick. And then Helm is there, and any tight end can be valued. Like, to me, it's kind of interesting. If I look at that, I'm like, maybe the Titans are a little bit undervalued, but I just don't know how good they can be and how much I believe in Cam Ward.
That's where coaching is going to decide a lot. Like last year, the Niners stayed alive despite all their injuries because of coaching. And one of those elite coaches moves to Tennessee. Can Robert Saleh keep that defense, humming and motivated all season? Because the game plan is going to be there to keep them in a close matchup. And then pairing Brian Daboll light years ahead of what they had last year with Brian Callahan and the nepotism involved. Like, they fired their O-line coach like mid-season, because it was like his brother-in-law or something. It was like
they had to blame someone, and they're starting to get bad. And yeah.
The coaching upgrade I think is massive, and I love for the sake of Brian Daboll. Like, it's also interesting. Tennessee brought in both of the New York failed coaches who are like overly scrutinized in the New York media, and like as good as they are, there's just so much pressure and so much like organizational disruption and like instability for them to overcome. Now they get a year off, at least, Saleh had a full year away with Daboll, a weird midseason firing, but they go to one of the quietest spots you can be in Tennessee. There is literally no pressure at all. All they have to do is just focus on their side of the ball. Daboll doesn't have to also be the entire team's head coach. All he has to do, just like Mike McDaniel, with the expertise of being a head coach, you can only isolate on your offensive game plan week to week. I think that's going to be a luxury for him. I actually picked the Titans to win their division last year. I didn't really believe
Ooh,
in the Jags as much as I should have, but like the Colts were making a good run for like
yeah,
you know it was completely up for grabs for a very long time. With a fourth place schedule and the coaching upgrades, I think they can be better. I'm not going to pick them to win the division, but I think if you
right.
told me they go like 8-9, I'm not going to be surprised.
Yeah, no, I see it. That's a good. You painted a good picture there. The coaching upgrades makes a big difference, and it's gonna come down to, like you said, the defense, and then the coaching improvement. Is Cam Ward a guy that can sustain a franchise? And these investments in the skill position players that they've made, is that enough to make them competitive? If Carlo Tate smashes, I'm starting to come around to it more. We're probably still undervaluing him, but
From a
I also like,
NFL draft capital standpoint, like there's nobody
yeah,
at receiver we're drafting fourth overall in the NFL that's
crazy.
going late round 5 since like Jamar Chase. This shit hasn't happened. Like even Tet,
Yeah,
was
I
just
guess
good at
we've
the
been
benefit.
kind of like cautious with some of the last draft classes. Like sometimes when we over index in that, and like we kind of like tilt the other way. I will say though, the year 3 guys that go around Carnell Tate and Jordan Tyson, whether it's Brian Thomas or even Marvin Harrison to an extent, it it's hard for me. I guess I can see where Tate is the obvious better pick than that group, but then Brian Thomas to me is pretty enticing because the Jags are just good, and then Marvin Harrison, it's like I go in circles whether I think he can do it or not.
That late fifth, early sixth pocket of receiver has a lot of really enticing clicks that you could argue deserve to be pulled up by a full round. Like I've taken Tate, I've taken Christian Watson at like pick 50, pick 50.
Even Rome
Yeah,
Odunze is right
Rome as
there.
well. Yeah, he's been falling lately. He used to kind of go early, and it's just kind of like round 4 is so weird, and then
Mhm.
everyone in round 5, whether they're a running back or a receiver, feels like they're gonna crush. Round 5, it's hard to mess up, even if you go Lamar Jackson. Like that's the reason why Lamar keeps falling because all of round 5 is just so compelling.
So
Um,
here's a question on how high can Carnell Tate rise. It's 2027. Carnell Tate or DJ Moore, who's drafted higher?
Cardinal Tate,
Carnell Tate or uh, Devontae Adams
Cardinal Tate.
or Mike Evans?
That one's close, but I'm gonna say Tate.
Okay. McMillan.
I genuinely believe right now Tate versus Tet McMillan should be a real discussion,
I think it's
and
close.
I think next year it could easily be Carnell Tate. If Bryce Young underperforms again, I could see that for sure.
I think Tate can be a solid third round pick next year if he does fire and does hit. And yeah, maybe I should start drafting like it because I'm not overexposed to Carnell Tate, but I probably should be.
I think there's one more team in here that was a blunt rotation member. I think that's Underdogs Anonymous at pick 11. So
Hell
I
yeah.
think giving him a review. He might not be. I think he is, but whether he's not, he's in a bunch of drafts with me. So let's take a look and then let's get out of here, brother. It's almost 10:45, and you're like 2 hours ahead of me. You're welcome, Montano. Appreciate you joining the membership.
Still
All
a
right, so,
great profile picture.
yeah,
Definitely fake, but still maybe like double take. I was like, what?
yeah, definitely one of the ones that's worth your time. Love it. We got Purdy, Shuck, and Bryce Young on this team. We got Genty, Scadaboo, Baishal Tootin, JCM, and Sean Tucker. Pretty strong running back room. The 11 pick fall on JCM. As much as I don't like him, we did take him on the last one
It helps.
ourselves. London at 14. That's where things got a little interesting in this lobby. Round 2 was kind of weird. Tet and Jordan Tyson, QJ and Coker. So the double Bryce Young bet, not bad. And then Jeremy Bernard and Chris Bell, some rookie swings. Chris Bell kind of injured, but I do like Jeremy myself. And then Kraft, Juwan Johnson, and Dulcich. He did snipe us on
Mm.
Dulcich, which was a little luxury pick for him. And I'm not sure it was completely necessary here, given the craft Juwan Johnson could be good enough. But the 3 tight end build is pretty popular. I think receivers a little bit
It's a
over.
little low floor.
Yeah, like I said, the Coker Tet not bad just because it's stacked. But the more I think about it, there's a chance that maybe that is bad because Chris Brazzell is a weird, weird factor, high variance perhaps. I kind of want to take back the stance that the double Bryce stack is not bad. There's a world that could be kind of bad actually.
I I like this team. I like all of the position groups. I think the wide receiver has a little bit of a lack of uh, depth
Juice.
or floor, but you really just need one breakout player to justify it because well, also you need London and T Mac to go right. So London and T Mac go right, and then you get like one of Tyson, Johnston, or Bernard, and maybe if you have Coker on here, he's more of an ancillary piece than like a true breakout you'd want because you have T Mac. But between Jordan Johnston and Jeremy Bernard, if one of those guys steps up and exceeds expectation, then your wide receiver room is all of a sudden good, and your running backs were already good. Your tight end's good enough. Your QBs are pretty good. It's a fun looking team. What draft spot was this out of?
11, I believe. Yeah, 11.
Yeah. And I think Purdy and Chuck, like people are pretty hyped on those two guys. They have a lot of fantasy point per game like potential.
I think he was hopeful that we would give him Pearsall back around, if I had to guess. But he also took Shuck with Tyson, so maybe not. But the fall on Purdy,
Makes sense.
unstacked,
Yeah,
but make
Purdy
that.
is good.
Yeah, no, Purdy this late for sure. Worth it. Worth a
It's
click.
kind of like our bet on Mahomes, but we had Mahomes with like 2 rounds earlier.
Mm-hmm. Right. Not a
It's
bad
to
team.
me very similar. Yeah, nice team.
All right, man. Well, any final thoughts for us before we went 3 hours tonight, man. I
It always
appreciate
happens.
you.
We get carried away. We talk ball. It's too much fun. Can't give it up. Yeah, man. Thanks so much for having me on. It's always a blast. It's been way too long. We always say it, but our schedules were like 2 ships passing in the night. But you've been killing it, man. I love seeing you live and the content you're putting out and catching your takes. So I'm glad we got to hop on, draft some teams, and hey, it's only June 9th as of right now for me. It's June 9th. It's June 8th for you still.
Right. Yeah.
But we have plenty of time this summer to draft more teams, so I'm excited to cook up some more with you.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedule right now while you're getting the moving truck
Oh
ready.
yeah, I'm moving this week, so I've got a lot going on, but it's fun. It's
A
good.
lot on the plate, but thanks for hopping on, and I definitely look forward to our next collab as well. And you know, anytime you want me, I'm happy to return the favor. And you've been killing it as well. Love the content, and
Appreciate you.
congrats on 1K, bro. Well deserved, and happy to see it. And
Hey, appreciate that. Yeah, I'm having fun with it.
yeah, if anyone hasn't done so, I've said it before. Check out the link in the description. Head over to his channel. Give Chris the Candyman your subscription. Definitely worth your time to check that out. Apologies if we kind of ignored the chat for a while. At one point, it fucking exploded. I think your Dolphins take, your Troy Franklin take. There were several takes that did have the polarized chat popping. So appreciate you
Love it.
bringing the heat and some strong takes. Had some fun. We had some good teams as well. I liked our chances with the Pitbull. I think we got a good
Yeah,
team.
that was a good one.
Sweet, bro. Well, take care. I'll see you next time, and we'll leave everyone with one final hit before we go. Let's see. I'll hit the drop with no audio. We'll take a rip, and then you'll get the final drop with audio. All right. I'll come back in just a sec. Peace out. Good night, y'all.
Peace.
Later.